we'd just like to send our condolences to Carl Webb and Troy Dargan's family and friends. Both passed away over the break. Dargan was 26 when he passed away. He debuted for the Rabbitohs, I think, a couple of years ago. He was currently signed with the Raiders in a tragic accident on holiday. And Carl Webb passed away at 42. He'd been suffering with motor neuron disease for 4 years. You can actually, if you go to the Carl Webb Foundation, you can actually donate to help support research in that disease. But we just wanted to send our condolences to both Troy Dargan and Carl Webb's family. Absolutely devastating. We've lost one of our own. Carl Webb, the memories of him in Origin, that will forever be in my memory. I will forever carry the incredible moments he had in Origin. Obviously played for the Broncos, played for the Cowboys, and fought so long with such a tough disease. And Troy Dargan, I'd met him, and he was actually a fan of Bloke and a part of the Bloke community. He really did enjoy the content. So it's a sad day. We've lost two people a part of our community.
Yeah, obviously, Carl. I think that, what he did over the last 4 years or so for that disease as well, shone a heap of light on it as well. But, yeah, looking back on his career, I will never forget that one-on-one battle he had with Luke Bailey that night. I remember sitting at home watching him run out with a cue in his head going, oh, fuck. This maniac is up for this one. And, Luke Bailey.
No, you're not
going
Australian
front row forward.
Yeah, you're not going at a nobody.
And I just love that. I posted that clip a few weeks ago, and someone commented and said, "Oh, why would you post something of Carl Webb because when he was on the ground, he put his elbow into him. Why would you post him doing that?" And I said, "Nah, you're in Origin. It is the toughest of the toughest in that arena. And Carl Webb didn't pick out a winger or a centre. He picked out the biggest dog on the opposition and said, let's go."
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just sums him up.
Yeah, that's rugby league. It's a challenge. He's saying, let's go. It's me versus you. It's rugby league. That's what it's about.
And the best thing about that whole set of six, and if you watch the whole thing, he calls out Luke Bailey. They go head-to-head, penalty New South Wales. He calls him out again. He absolutely gives it to him. Luke Bailey drops the ball. Carl Webb gets the ball. And then Brett Kamali tries a one-on-one strip. Because the tackle's made, it actually ends up being a penalty Queensland. And they kick for touch and get out of their own end. You just love that.
Yeah. I loved about the moment too, the way he jammed him in the tackle was a textbook tackle. It wasn't a high shoulder charge that you're just throwing everything into it. It was old school, straight through the guts. Thanks for coming. Unbelievable. Timmy?
Yeah. Says a little bit about how passionate you are as a bloke when you get the cue shaved into the side of your head for the Maroons.
Yeah.
And, you see all these tributes come out for Carly Webb, and on all reports, the longer his illness went on, the more positive he got, just because he was so tough. He took it on the chin as he did throughout his entire footballing career. He said, set up the foundation, tried to find a positive in what was a dark time. Really sad loss for the community. And Troy Dargan as well, again, on all reports, a lovely, lovely bloke. He just spent time down at the Raiders and, was pushing for more NRL time. And, yeah, mate, tragic for both families. So thoughts to go out to all of them. Just on Troy, as you said, mate, he was a huge bloke fan. After the Beer, Food and Footy Festival, I caught up with him that afternoon, messaged me and said, I'm around, let's go and have a beer. And knew all of our stuff inside out. Yeah. A really good bloke. It's funny, I remember watching, Troy was a CBA of mine once upon a time. I remember going out to Parramatta. I think it was Corey Norman's first game at the Hills, first time arriving. It was a trial out there, and the whole night, I went there to watch Corey and see how he went. And the whole night I just remember going, who the fuck is this halfback?
Yeah, wow.
And I could not believe it took him so long to get an opportunity in first grade. And, I literally spoke to him a few days before he went away saying, fuck, I've got this post ready. I reckon you're a sniff to get the 5'8" jersey in Canberra.
Yeah, wow.
And it just, unbelievable how it played out.
So sad.
So sad. His funeral's on this Friday, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, so our condolences to both families. Devastating news. Devastating news.
Just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Bloke in a Bar. The first episode of 2024. I tell you what, the beak has never been bigger. It's never been bigger, baby. And I'm talking about the beak on my face, boys. Settle down. I'm flying into this year. Get behind me, slipstream, boys. It's going to be easy cycling. Now, might need the big boys to get up the front sometimes to take some off of the load. But this year, we're going for broke. We're going for gold. Guru, how was your break, mate?
It's great, mate. Unreal to be back, though. I walked through that door this morning. Feeling something pretty special.
This year could be anything.
Could be anything.
It could be anything. Timmy, what about yourself, mate?
Good camp. You've got to be back at the bar for 2024. Very excited. Good little freshen up over the Chrissy New Year break. Chrissy back home in Coombe was very nice, very wholesome with the family. Chrissy Day in the Williams household, basically just sat there, YouTube, Alan Tongue compilation, tucking highlights. We'd often break that up with some Trevor Thurling elbows, knees compilations, and basically, I don't know what you want more on a Chrissy Day, and I've got a confession to make as well. I actually started to miss you boys a little bit over the break. I never thought I'd say that, but even Guru.
Man, don't make it weird, Timmy.
Yeah, well,
you're making me feel things I don't feel.
I know. Well, that's what I thought when it came up as well. Here we are.
Matty, how's your break, mate?
Yeah, elite. I was barely in Sydney. I was pretty much everywhere except Sydney. I think I slept in my own bed, I think twice out of the 4 weeks. But again, I came in.
Slept in the same bed only twice in 4 weeks?
Yeah, no. As in, like I was not in Sydney for that long. But no, I came in yesterday to set everything up, and I got a certain buzz back. So excited to be here.
Yeah, very excited, very excited. And look, I get it. You're on the work site right now. You're back at work. Look, I don't know where you're working, but you're working, and you're sitting there with your head down, going, "This sucks." So we'll do our best to make it easier and make it go quicker, because we understand how lucky we are to be in this position, and it's all thanks to you guys. So thank you so much, as we said at the end of last year. And the way we thank you is trying to create the best content for you guys going forward. Brought to you by Bloke Beer, the best beer in all the land, the beer of Australian sport. I mean, look, I'm hearing whispers it's the beer of cricket. Like, with my analysis over the cricket, summer, it has been fucking top notch. Top notch. So I'm hearing it's the beer of cricket. Look, it's the beer of rugby league. We've already earned our stripes in that area. We may conquer cricket as well. Guys, go out and grab a case of Bloke beer. It supports the platform, and it's a bloody beautiful beer. There's been a bit of news. But just quickly, before we get to Jerome Luai signing with the Tigers, it's time to face the music, brought to you by Sportsbet. A massive thank you to Sportsbet. A new year. We've got huge things planned with Sportsbet. If you're going to have a punt, you do it with Sportsbet. The best in the business. Make sure to do it responsibly. Now, look, we've got nothing to face the music with sporting-wise, but it's a new year, and I think we all need to reflect on us and become better men. So we're each going to face the music on something we did incorrectly over the break and try to become better men. Guru, speak to me.
Yeah, my missus went away for Christmas. She went over to England with her best friend over there to spend Christmas with her. So as I dropped back to the airport, I was given one responsibility while she was away.
Oh, no.
It was go to the post office and collect the Christmas present for our little niece, Stevie. Given one responsibility. Beck had gone and ordered her some little, baby Air Force Ones. They're about this fucking big. Adorable. Yep. I know you'll appreciate it, Kempy. Anyway, I was given one job. And I'm sitting there on Christmas Day, with the family and everything, and then Beck calls her on FaceTime, and she's getting passed around, everyone's enjoying presents, and she gives it back to me, and she's on loudspeaker, everyone here. She goes, "How did Stevie enjoy the shoes?"
Oh, shit.
And I'm just frozen and going, and then Stevie's mum's behind me, Beck's sister, and she's looking at me going, "Pretend she's got them." And I'm like, how the fuck am I going to pretend the shoes are on her feet when they're not? How am I possibly going to get away from this? So I had no choice but to face the music.
Oh, my God.
It wasn't great. It was literally given one responsibility over 3 weeks.
And there's no music louder than an angry wife.
No.
It's tough music to face.
Yeah.
It's tough music to face.
It echoed.
Are you a better man, though?
I think so.
And also, you can say, and you say it straight away to the wife, it works every time. First, we say, "Calm down." That works every time.
That works, yes.
Then you say, "We'll remember this," and laugh. That usually works with the wife.
And it can't get worse.
It can't get worse, exactly. And just a tip for anyone listening, that absolutely is the worst thing you could have done. The worst thing you could have done. Take your music, cop your medicine, and move forward. Timmy, speak to me, mate.
Boxing Day on the Monero. Family has a big tennis tournament following Chrissy Day, obviously, and I was having a hit with the old girl, Trisha Williams, shout out, and serving. She was at the net, doubles obviously, and I was about to send down a 180, 200k bomb thereabouts. Hasn't officially been measured, but and I got the old girl square in the back of the head. So,
oh my God.
Boxing Day tennis tournament didn't end well, and I was on washing up duties that night. So we've moved on, made our peace, but
she has CTE.
Yeah, she's still hurting.
Oh my God, what is wrong with you blokes? Maddie, speak to me. What did you do wrong?
So I went to Bali with my beautiful girlfriend, and we thought we got Bali belly halfway through. Turns out we didn't, but we flew into her family's, so she's from Victoria. So we flew into Melbourne, Ballarat on Christmas morning. And as we got there, Courtney started to start feeling sick. And by the end of Christmas Day, she had some of the worst barley belly you'll ever see. I mean, can't talk, can't get out of bed, can't do nothing. Boxing Day rolls around and I had a choice. Either I could stay there and look after her, or I could jump on a train and go to the Boxing Day test. And I went to the cricket.
Yes,
oh my God.
Matty.
Look, you are a sports analysis. You do analyse sport, so it technically could be classed as work. I'm just going to throw it out there.
It's work.
It's technically could be classed as work. But you know what? You wouldn't be in that chair if you didn't do that, make that decision. I'm actually going to flip it. I think my wife needs to face the music.
Wow.
Now, this could go really wrong.
This can only go one way.
But, okay, so I got sick over the break, and I was really sick. And I was on the couch. And look, we got a newborn, so obviously the missus is stressed out of her mind. And I was crook as anything. And basically she gave me the toughen up speech, and I need to pull my head in. And I was like, I was only 24 hours into the sickness. So I feel like I could have got 48 hours out of it. I got a 24-hour toughen up speech from the missus. And anyway, so I ended up being crook for a long 4 or 5 days. We found out that someone else that she knew also got sick, and they went to hospital, and it was the same thing. And I was like, far out, I only got 24 hours. I'd understand a 36-hour toughen up, but a 24-hour toughen up with a baby in your hand, telling your husband to toughen up and just get up and get it done. Jesus, really hurt me heart. But she's probably right.
It's actually the number one issue I have with my wife, that when she's sick, she's the most resilient person I've ever
I know,
seen.
women are tougher than us.
Heaps tougher.
They just push through it. They'll go through a whole day of work and they'll be like, oh yeah, by the way, I've been throwing up, I passed out 3 times, I'm highly dehydrated, and I've got a flu. And you're like, I would literally be in the hospital right now. That was me. Another face to music, just a quick short one. Didn't go to the gym as much as I should have, if I'm being honest. Need to face that music.
Yeah, that got me as well. Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Again. 29 years in a row.
Anyway.
Campy, I've actually got one in your favour for a change, mate. And
Yes.
Hammy the dog, obviously, Brush just extend his holiday.
Yeah.
He'll be facing the music next week and he'll be dancing. We put our Big Bash predictions in before we went away, and nothing too bad elsewhere, but you mentioned Bloke being the beer of cricket.
Yeah.
You being the
Mr.
face
Cricket.
you being the face of cricket in Australia, and the Brisbane Heat, who everyone had, they put a line to them. They said they can't do anything this tournament, and I do believe that you tipped them, mate. They're undefeated.
It is what it is. I've actually got them. I've actually got them on Sportsbet as at $4.50, I think, to win it. At $4.50, and I think they've come in at $3.
I might chime in there, because that episode, that morning, we were sitting here before the show and these two cricket heads were talking to each other about how good the Renegades are looking and how they think they'll win it. They're the value play, and I was sitting there with no fucking clue what to say, and I thought, beautiful, Kemi's going to ask me first. I'm going to take the Renegades tip. They've won one fucking game since we had that show. They're dead last.
Mate, you got to come to me for your cricket. You got to come to me for your cricket.
Unbelievable.
And you know what it is, a Brisbane Heat? It's a Queensland spirit. It's just inside them.
It's not my fault that one of the world's best T20 players, Quinton de Kock, comes over from South Africa and couldn't get off the square for 6 games.
Anyway, that's Basic Music, brought to you by Sportsbet. Look, I think it's safe to say we're all degenerates and we need to be better men. We need to be better men and maybe apologise to our better halves. Maybe we should go home and do that. And all we need to toughen up. Now, let's get into it. Jerome Luai signed with the Tigers. 5-year deal starting in 2025. The reported figure is $6 million over 5 years. He will play for the Panthers 2024. What a huge signing for the Tigers. And I know that it's dangerous to say this. But I know they've won the spoon, back-to-back spoons. I get that. I actually think the club has made a lot of progress in the last 24 months. And we'll get into, all of the board stuff, because I think that happened after the last podcast. But I think this is a fantastic signing. I think this is exactly what they need. Now, you have to remember, people are going to sit there and go, $1.2 million or $1 million. Yeah, I understand. You probably land him around the 800, 900K mark maybe. But you have to remember, you don't get to save that salary cap money. If someone's on the market that's a premiership winner in the halves, do you risk going, okay, we don't want to pay 1.2 million for him, we only want to pay 700K, and missing out on him, and then missing out on the next half as well, and then you're literally the next 5 years, you're chasing your tail in trying to find a half because they're so rare to come by. Guru, what were your thoughts on the announcement?
Yeah, I love it for the West Tigers. Jerome Luai, I mean, like him, hate him, love him. I really don't care. He wins games of football. He has done nothing but win for the last 5-6 years. He might not be the main guy at Penrith, but I think it's tough to bet against him. I think he's going to be a really good signing for the West Tigers. And, you know, if they would have signed him and the board was still the same and nothing had changed at the Tigers, I would have been a little bit nervous about this. But I just love the way that, you know, the people they've brought on, like Jerome Luai is the big signing for me, and we'll get to it soon. Bringing Shane Richardson in, just that's a game changer for me at the Tigers. I know it's hard to do, and, you know, I think people will naturally just tip the Tigers to come last again. I think it's a great roster. I think it's fantastic. Like, the only weak spots I can sort of see are the outside backs. If Justin Olam arrives there this week, which, you know, that's the rumour, that helps with that. Outside of that, where's the weak spot in this side? I
think it's a really good roster, and I'd be shocked if they win the Spoon again.
Oh yeah, and I once again, as you said, I know we said it last year, but I just can't see that roster finishing last. I just cannot.
With Benji as coach?
Benji as coach, and there'll be a lot of challenges that will come with that for sure, but Benji's got that. He's a bit like Slater in that he'll be able to have a special influence on those guys.
The thing is with Benji is that I don't know whether he'll be a great coach, but I know he won't be a bad coach.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that, but I'm very certain he won't be a bad coach. But back to Jerome Luai. Timmy, thoughts?
I'm so excited by it, and I have so much respect for Luai for making the move. He could have sat so comfortably at the Panthers, potentially jagged another premiership or two, who knows, with that dynasty, potentially more. But he had a quote when he came out with his, his little press conference and said, to lead a team is motivating. I think anyone saying ill about me motivates me. I've always had the edge and that chip on my shoulder. And he has, because people say, you can't do it without the Penrith team around you, and more so without Nathan Cleary as your halfback. Well, he's led Samoa to a World Cup final from nowhere. He's had success leading the team when Nathan Cleary has been out. And he said, you know what, stuff you all. And as he said, anyone that doesn't like Luai because he puts himself out there, whatever it might be, as Guru said, you can't not respect the way that he backs everything up he does. And now he said, all right, screw you all, I'll go to a weaker club in the competition, I will lead them around, and he's put the ball in his court. And I would love nothing more than to see him go there and not only take them to finals, but hopefully further, top four, and who knows how far.
Yeah, and like people that, at the end of the day, you can say whatever you want about Jerome Luai, and you know, and look, I understand it. He is very polarizing. I get it. I totally get it. But he's the one out there in the arena making these risks. Now, some people go, oh yeah, well, he's getting paid a lot of money. You don't reckon he could have got 800 to 900K at a few other clubs that are doing much better than the Tigers? He's gone, you know what? Yeah, it's a decent pay packet, but he's gone straight to at the current bottom of the table side and said, basically, he is going to be the man. He's not going into a side that, and if you actually watch the interview that he did with the announcement, that actually revealed there were more clubs than the Bulldogs Tigers that were really, really interested in Jerome Luai. Are you telling me there aren't some clubs out there that would have paid 800 to 900K to put him at 6? I think there are quite a few clubs that would have just tentatively said, like, for example, what about the Cowboys? Put Dearden at 7 and Jerome Luai at 6. Sharkies? Like, there are a few clubs that would have paid 800 to 900K for Jerome Luai at 6. And look, if you want to sit here and pretend that he isn't a very good 6, that's ridiculous. Yeah. Like, I agree. I'm not sure whether he can be the main guy. I'm not sure. Maybe he will, and this is what he's going to go and test himself and do, which I'm so excited to see, and fair play to him to do it. But to say he's not a good 6 is outrageous. Go back and watch his Origin debut. Tell me that guy isn't a good 6.
And as a comparison, you look at... I'm not comparing by any means Cooper Cronk and Jerome Luai as footballers, but, you know, with the amount of success that Cooper Cronk had throughout his career at the Storm and then with the Roosters, and there's always the Immortals conversation come up, and someone always says, well, what about Cooper Cronk's success throughout his career, all his grand finals, all his victories, his Queensland, etc., etc. But there's always the question, like, he did it with the best teams around him. And you say you wish you would have seen Cooper Cronk with a bottom 4 team or even a bottom 8 team. Jerome Luai, he had those same question marks around because he'd been with Penrith this whole time. He said, "No, stuff ya. I'll go out and I'll show you what I can do with a lesser team."
Yeah, it's super exciting. So you've got to respect the fact that he is willing to, because he knows that he is going to be front and centre of that organisation, and anything that goes wrong, even if they finish 10th or 9th, it's still going to be, not good enough. Even if they finish finals, it's probably going to be, it's actually because of this player or this player. Like, I think there are some people that are just, no matter what he does, unless he wins a comp, which is like, come on, it's going to be not enough. I got a lot of respect for Jerome.
If he has 3 years of no finals, from being, 26 to 29, 27 to 30, whatever it is, he gets branded forever as, he was just good because he was around a good team.
Yeah, it's a huge risk.
He's taken on that challenge.
He's taken on that challenge. And as we said, like, there are plenty of clubs that would have paid 800 to 900K for him. So I think it's a great signing, and I think I've got a massive respect for Jerome for doing this. And as I said, people say they want characters in the game until they get characters in the game.
Yeah.
They just want characters they like in the game. You can't tell me rugby league isn't better with rugby league isn't better off with a guy like Jerome Luai in it. He brings people like, okay, the perfect example, and I'm just talking about boxing, not what Floyd Mayweather did outside of boxing. People used to watch Floyd Mayweather to get knocked out. But imagine a world where Floyd Mayweather wasn't a boxer. What would we have been watching the last 10 or so years? Yeah, okay, we had some incredible stars, Manny Pacquiao, for sure. But Floyd Mayweather was boxing for X amount of years. Now, I'm not saying Jerome Luai is the Floyd Mayweather of rugby league because Floyd Mayweather is a GOAT. But what I am saying is that his villain arc that he's embraced, and he has fully embraced it now, it's part of rugby league. It's part of rugby league.
And you've got to respect him for that. I often think I'm not putting these two in that Immortals debate, but I always think it's interesting whenever the Immortals come up, you look at people, probably just the older generation than us, that say, why isn't Sterling and Brett Kenny Immortals? And I always sit there and go, well, it's fucking obvious why they're not, because they're paired together. They're remembered as a combination, not as much as great individuals, whereas your Joeys, your Thurstons, you remember them as individuals. And I love
That's a great point.
that Jerome Luai has gone, you know what, at the moment, because, can you imagine a world where you win 3 premierships in a row, go to 4 grand finals in a row as a 5'8", and people go, it's only because you're halfback?
And also, you go to Origin, you have a gun debut. You're actually part of a record Origin series win.
You're the 5'8", the most dominant Origin team ever.
Like, literally.
In series.
In your debut series. Your debut series, you win by a record margin.
Yeah.
Your debut series. And you did it all in Queensland.
Yeah. On top of that, you replaced James Maloney, and people still can't respect you. It is the worst season he has had in the last 4 is he lost a grand final to Cameron Smith.
Yeah. It's if you can't admit now that he's a good 6, I don't know what. And look, it's funny. I see a lot of comments now like, oh, look at the grand final. It's like, oh my God, the dude needed a shoulder reconstruction. Yeah, he was a little bit quiet, but it's like. Anyway, the answers are all obvious there. It's funny how people look to 40 minutes of play and go, oh, he's not a good 6. It's like, oh, okay, so the 3 premierships in a row don't matter? It's like,
and I think the calls off the back of that grand final are so unfair. Like, they brought Jack Cogger into that game. He is a completely different footballer to Jerome Luai, and it just happened to suit that moment and the way that they
Cleary
changed
essentially
their
moved
games.
to 6.
Yeah. Where were you all before that game saying Cogger should be the starting 5'8"? Where were you all?
Yeah.
Very, very interesting year, boys. 12 months. Jaden Sullivan, Latu Fainu, Aiden Caesar, Adam Dewey.
Mate.
They're all playing for one spot. Like, don't get me wrong, I know like Dewey can go to centre, he can play different positions, but Sullivan, Fainu, outstanding talents, Caesar back into the NRL in the twilight of his career. All these blokes are essentially, if Dewey does want to play 5'8", which to my knowledge last time I checked he did.
I don't think that's a thing anymore.
Yeah, especially come back from the ACL. But
well, like with Luai coming, and that's what I was going to speak about. With Luai coming, you basically have to make a decision now. Is he a 6 or is he a 7?
Yeah. So all those blokes, the next 12 months, just the narrative, the chat around all of them, their futures, every game is going to be so important for them. Going to be a fun one to watch.
And it was, 2 years ago, we were sitting here going, Matt Burton's arriving next year at Canterbury. Who's going to be the guy? Matt Burton arrived and we went, we still don't know who the guy is. The Tigers need to have this sorted. They need to have a plan. The first thing they need to do is work out is he going to be our 7 or our 6?
Yeah.
And then they need to work out who's going to be the guy. If it's going to be Latu, if it's going to be Bud Sullivan, he'd probably be my favourite at the moment. I think Bud would be the one. I think, unfortunately for Aiden Caesar, I would lean towards trying to set Luai up with his partner for the next 5 years, not the next 2 years.
If I'm the Tigers, and I know Tigers fans definitely don't want to hear this, but the result for you guys this year, you've already won the spoon twice in a row. Like, if you win it again, does it really matter that much? What does matter is you don't want to be in a Bulldog situation where you're rolled in with your star player and you have no idea who's going to partner him. You need to begin preparing whoever the partner is. And look, this may change. But I believe all selections in the spine should be around, I mean, not all selections and not 100% of the selection, but a large portion of the decision-making process should be around, will this person fit the system that Jerome Luai is going to need to be the best he can be? I personally, I would start the year with the idea that Luai is a six, and I would be try to work around that and say, okay, Luai's going to be a 6. We need to find someone that can lead the boys around. Like, I would see how that goes. And then if I've gone, look, we've given a few of the boys an opportunity that not a single person has stepped up and done what they need to do, then I'll go, shit, maybe we just need to put Luai in 7. And that's when I would start going, who is going to be the 6? What do you boys reckon?
I would head into this season with a plan that my round 1 spine for 25 is going to be Appy at 9, Matamura at 13, Bud Sullivan at 7, Jerome Luai at 6, and fullback at 1.
Because it's funny you say that because, like, I agree, but it's if you're going to start preparing now, if you weren't going to start preparing now, I would actually probably have Bud at 6 and Caesar at 7. But if you are going to start planning now, I would put Bud at 7 and maybe at Latu at 6.
That's what makes it so hard, because I think for 20, like, if Luai didn't exist and he wasn't coming, you straight away go, Aiden Caesar has to be the halfback.
Sure.
He's the experienced head in that team to lock him in, let Bud get some time. But you're right, if you're properly planning, you would have Bud at 7 from round 1. I'm not sure how they manage that. I don't know. You can talk about it more, but even when I watched Aiden Caesar when he was playing halfback, it's not like he's the most ball-dominant guy in the world. So I think playing Caesar and Bud, I think Bud can get a lot of experience at 6 preparing himself for that role.
Okay. Timmy, what do you
It's a
reckon?
really tricky situation, as you said, because the way I see it, and I think we sort of spoke about and alluded to the Dragons last year early on and the Doggies to a sort of less degree, that, all right, they're in rebuilding phases and they need to put plans towards the future. And we especially spoke about it midway through the year when their seasons are in strife. All right, start preparing for next year as much as you don't want to hear it. You're not going to make finals. It's going to be tough. And you can say similar about the Tigers this year. And, like, do you put someone like Sullivan at 7 or do you put Fino in there to get them experience leading into next year? But the Tigers roster is still so strong, and there is no reason why, if this the new order at the Tigers and the new coaching staff and board and everything and players, that they can't be a finals footy team. With the squad they've got on paper, there's no reason why they can't win week 1 of finals or win week 2 of finals. So they don't want to sacrifice what they can achieve with their current roster in 2024, whereas there are other rosters, and look, I'm going to call it the Dragons, who are going, we need to build. If that isn't necessarily finals in 2024, but we're better placed in 2025, so be it. I know that sounds shit for Dragons fans, but it's not an overly exciting roster as it stands. If I'm a Tigers fan, I'm going, why can't we, push come September next year?
I know. I do think they've got a good solid roster, but comparing them to some of those other rosters that missed last year, like Rabbitohs, Cowboys, Eels, I still think they're a little bit off finals footy. So that's where I go, look, what's the difference between 10th and last? I know there is a difference financially, but I know that for sure. But I just think build towards next year, because they're not going to win a comp this year. They're not going to win a comp. And it's very easy for me to say because I don't have my job on the line. People are sitting there going, oh, yeah, just focus on next year. Well, what do you do if you're a coach and you come and, there's been no improvement and you're coming 15th and everyone's going, well, Tim Sheen's got sacked, Benji's here now and we haven't even improved. Everyone's putting pressure on, well, Benji's not a good coach now. And he's sitting there going, no, you just got to wait till next year. Like, it's such a fickle game. So it's a tough one. It's a very, very, very tough call.
Hopefully that's where this new board and the new backing and all that come in and they say, Benji, and if that is the, like, mate, build over 3 years, we don't care if we get the wooden spoon. We do, obviously.
Yeah.
You are our coach. You are leading us forward, and take that pressure off Benji to make those decisions to build to 2025.
Give a clear direction.
And
And that's where I think Richardson will be really good.
Yep.
Make a choice. I think that the worst thing the Tigers can do this year is have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Like, we're kind of trying to play finals footy, but at the same time, we're kind of trying to build towards next year. I think make a decision. Whether you sit down and go what you said, Timmy, and you go, no, hang on a sec. We have the roster to play finals footy. We're going all in. Make that choice early in the year. Or if you go, look, it'd be great if we can, like if Bud Sullivan comes out and plays how good we can and he plays 7, he kills it, that's awesome. And we put him with maybe Dewey, and that's a way Dewey could get that 6 role. Fainu and Sullivan, I think that's probably a little bit too young to go with, in saying that Fainu, obviously incredibly talented. He could explode as a rookie. But I think you got to make that decision early and be really clear with it and stick to it.
And that's it. On that flip side, as you alluded to, Kempy, if Shane Richardson and co believe that they've got a squad to play finals football and push come September, you make that clear to Benji, like, no, we need to play finals footy this year, or be thereabouts.
Yeah.
It should just be clear.
Yeah, I think the direction, because
he'll pick his team accordingly.
Exactly. That you'll make such different decisions if you're building towards next year, or if you're actually trying to, make finals this year or push for it. Matty, what do you reckon, mate?
Just going off that, we've got a walking case study where we saw the Bulldogs a few years ago screw with their halves every 2 weeks, so they couldn't look 2 weeks ahead, and they were stuck in purgatory for about 3 years. So if that's not an example the Tigers should follow, then I don't know what is. But yeah, for the whole Luai situation, I'm not surprised. Like, first of all, he deserves his huge payday. Like, that's the first thing. Like, he's getting paid so much money, and he's won 3 comps, so he deserves it, which I'm stoked for him for. But equally, the challenge to go to the Tigers, who have come last. He's literally going from first to last. Like, maybe that won't be the case this year, but, So, yeah. And I tell you what's funny. I actually, maybe it's just because I love the rugby league soap opera. I love the drama. Like, I saw a lot of articles and a lot of things like, hurry up, Luai, blah, blah, blah. I've absolutely loved this whole roller coaster ride. Like, the 5'8" of the premiership winning team, putting himself out there for clubs. He could easily just sit back and win another 2-3 comps with Penrith. I've absolutely loved everything. So, yeah, I'm stoked he's going to the Tigers.
Yeah, you got to. I think rugby league fans are getting a bit more like, you know what? Just enjoy it.
That's it.
Just enjoy it, baby. You don't need to fight it. It's rugby league. Speaking of the Panthers,
can I just throw in one more thing on the Tigers before we move on? I wonder, like Jerome Luai, even if he was to arrive in 25 and he underperformed and it goes to shit, I really wonder if it took so long to sign him there because he essentially said, look, I'll come there, but you got to sort out this fucking board. Like, I wonder if Jerome Luai has potentially been the nail in that coffin that they needed to make changes. And I wonder if that's why it took so long to get this over the line. Because I'm like, Jerome Luai's in a position where, as you said, he's coming from, one of the greatest teams we've ever seen too. They've won 2 wooden spoons in a row. One of the worst teams we've seen. He was holding the cards realistically. Like, even just the signing itself to get it, if it meant that it, started to move certain people on from that club, maybe it's just a huge positive in that, if nothing else.
It's a really good insight, Guru, because maybe a part of that review of the board, and we'll get to the board in a bit, part of that was players don't want to come here. Or part of it was, and look, again, guys, we don't know what happened, but maybe they did go and speak to Api Coruscant. And they said, mate, what do you think about what's going on? And maybe he said, and guys, I don't know if he said this, but maybe he said, look, I think that this needs to change, like, if you're doing a review of a club and the board, you go and speak to guys that have won premierships. Yep. You go and speak to Benji Marshall. You go and speak to Api Coruscant. If I was doing the review. So it's a great point. Like, maybe that was the final nail in the coffin of a high-profile player saying, look, the only way I'm signing a 5-year deal with that club is if we know exactly what the future is going to hold with some big players. Now, the flip side of that is Shane Richardson's only signed a 6-month deal, so we'll see what happens with that. But anyway, we'll get to the board in a sec. Anything more on that?
No, I just think that's something worth noting for Tigers fans that, no matter what happens here, I think it has been a catalyst for good thing. And look, I think a lot of people are sitting here pointing fingers going, it's all solved now, the board's gone. You still got to get the results on the board. Like, we're all assuming the board was the problem. Yeah. But if we get to the end of this season, we've got another spoon on our hands, we're going, okay, well, what happened there?
Yeah, it's...
I don't think that will happen, but the West Tigers have got to show that, everyone was pointing fingers at this thing for so long. Was that the problem or not? We still don't have that answer.
Yeah, I think it's like, for example, Michael Maguire. We were all sitting there a few weeks, years ago going, fuck, Madge, like, just doesn't seem to have that connection that we thought he would with the boys, blah, blah, blah. Now we're all looking back going, oh, actually, he was doing... like, imagine Michael Maguire with the roster they have now. And look, I'm not sitting here saying that, I'm fully on board with the Michael Maguire train and he's the best coach since sliced bread now. But what I am saying is we have to look back on that and go, the roster he was dealing with, for them to come ninth is actually outrageous.
Yep.
Is actually outrageous. Now, to the Panthers. I actually think... Look, the Panthers are such a strong outfit that it's not big news, because they've handled it so smartly. But I think when you read between the lines, it's actually a bigger deal. Not bigger deal, but just as big a news has kind of come out of that place. So he goes back to training. After that gets announced. Goes on his social media, says, I have not signed anything. I'm not, signed anything with the Tigers. Then he goes back to training, and in the announcement, when he announces it on Fox League 9 or whatever, and you can go watch the interview on YouTube, it's a great interview, he basically admits that he did go home from training. Because I thought it was just like a bit of a blow-up. A bit of a media blow-up, but he actually did go home from training, and he said it was because of misunderstanding. And then basically his manager in this press conference said, we're going to move on from that. We're not going to talk about that out of respect for the Panthers. But he did say something that I found really interesting. So in the next bit of the conversation, he said this.
And supposedly I did announce it, we still weren't sure about what was happening. So I guess that's why I had to step away for a bit, because even we didn't know what was going on. So I think it was pretty crucial for us to do.
So he's talking about leaving training. When I supposedly announced it, even I didn't know what was going on. Now, look, I got my tinfoil hat on. But that sounds to me like a guy that the Panthers club allegedly leaked the story to push the deal to go through.
Which wouldn't shock me in the slightest. And don't become the Penrith Panthers
as ruthless
without things like this being ruthless.
Because the question was, how did Ivan and the playing group react to the news that you had signed? And that's what his answer was.
Yep.
I didn't even know what was going on. He leaves training.
Jeez.
If I had to make a guess, and this is 100% a guess, guys, this is what I reckon happened. He told the Panthers, I've been officially offered this. This is the contract. What do you think? Panthers have gone, sweet. They've got on the blower to a journo. He signed with the Tigers. That huge news breaks. Luai rolls into training, goes, boys, I haven't signed. And then there's, he's upset that because why would the Tigers leak it? They're desperate to keep him. And why would he leave training?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Sounds very familiar.
And so that's what I reckon's happened there. And look, this happens all the time. Like it happened to me where a club released that I was going to a club before anything had been agreed to. It happens all the time. So it's part of rugby league, but it's just an insight that I thought super you have to remember, guys, this is a 4-time grand final, 3-time premiership winning half that left training. That's a big, imagine and I'm not saying Thurston, but Thurston left training or Joey left training. That's a big deal. And so, I think that, and then also, what was really interesting, on the day that it said that he's going to officially assign, so it said Jerome Luai has called a press conference, he's signed with the Tigers. Within, I think, about an hour or two, it came out, Panthers have waived their right to re-sign him. And that's, I think, Panthers' way of owning the narrative and saying, we waived the right. We didn't want him and he just bounced on us. We said we weren't interested.
Used to be my favourite saying about the Roosters when they were sort of in their period of winning back-to-back premierships and everything. They're not in the friends business, they're in the premierships business.
Yeah.
And for the Penrith Panthers, they are well and truly in the premierships business, and they've shown it over the last couple of years.
Their handle of media.
Kickout, Critter, Jerome Luai.
Look who they've lost. And we've spoken about this ad nauseum. It's unfair on the players because the players get called greedy and blah, blah, blah. But I haven't seen any backlash towards the Panthers because they have handled this unbelievably well. Unbelievably well. The way that they've controlled the narrative of what is happening has been some of the best I've ever seen.
And at the exact same time, leading into the finals this year, their entire narrative with Mick Fanning talking was grassroots. These are the guys we bring through. They're showing them all the door, but who's talking about it?
No one's
because they're
talking
managing it perfectly.
They are such a well-run club. From a perspective of business and winning premierships, they are tippity top.
And that's where it almost sounds like we're being negative on Penrith. I respect it. I respect it so much because every single club, take South Sydney, for example, there was off-field chatter this year. What happens? Fall into a heap. Manly, the year before, fall into a heap. There's never anything at Penrith. And they're doing, arguably some more controversial things than other clubs, but they know how to handle it.
It's, I wish there was a way to handle it in a more amicable, where the player doesn't get painted in a light that's negative. But obviously being a player, that's where I lean towards. But from a business perspective, it's ruthless. And how can you argue against it from a business perspective when they just won 3 premierships?
100%. Yeah.
Timmy, what do you reckon, mate?
Yeah, look, not too much to add, boys. 12 months on from Stephen Crichton signing with the Doggies. A lot of similarities between the way it was all handled and, whether that was masterstroke from Penrith and their admin, their media team and all that, or whether it was, I don't know, but just so funny to be 12 months on and just, as you said, how do you knock Penrith for what they're doing? They win. I'm not in a position to criticise Penrith for anything they're doing at the moment. Like, how can you?
You don't accidentally land dynasties.
Mate, they're the way they've handled this has been so intelligent. It's been harsh and unfair, but you just can't knock it. You seriously cannot. You can knock it from a human perspective and understanding that, like, Critter is a person, Lenu is a person, Jerome Luai, they are people. They have all these comments like, oh, yeah, good. Like, I've already seen comments of, like, yeah, good riddance from Panthers fans. And you're just like,
good God.
What? He's literally... Anyway.
And I think, like, with the Jerome Luai situation, like, it's sad to see him go. He's been so good there. But I look at the handful of options they've got to replace him over the next few years, and I'm so excited because it could go in so many different directions.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's a lesson I think that every young player learns. It's a business, man.
Yeah.
And when you're young and you're full of ideals and you're naive and you're a very idealistic, you're always about loyalty and brotherhood and I'll do anything and you have to do that to a degree. But how many ex-players usually they'll come out and say it's a business, mate. Like, it's a business. The positive thing for Jerome Luai is, although, as I said, I feel for him and Critter and Lenu and the boy, or any player from any club that has a narrative painted about them that isn't true. I 100% feel for him. The positive is Critter landed a big contract. Luai landed a big contract. Spencer is going to a fucking unbelievable club.
I think especially for Jerome Luai, I mean, unfairly people think you're an arsehole anyway. You might as well be an arsehole sitting on 1.5.
Yeah, oh man, 100%.
They're big boys. They're on good wickets. Everyone will be all right.
Yeah. I do think the Penrith situation is so interesting though, because it probably has been a while since we've had a club that has truly embraced these are local juniors from the area. And there's something to be said for when all those extra things happen at that club, a part of it is because those boys are from the area.
100%.
They aren't just playing for a jersey. If they're on the street and someone disrespected the area, they'd get into it over it. You know what I mean? Like, that's how much they love that area. Whereas, like, if someone disrespected Mudgee, I mean, look, I'm punching on because I'm fucking skits. I'm skits. But Mudgee Bar, we're just going, oh, yeah, sweet, bros. See you later. It's all good. You know what I'm saying? So there is a lot of passion in that Penrith area.
And, to their credit, though, I mean, like, you have a look at the side that's lining up for them next year and how many of them are still juniors that have come through.
Yeah.
It's incredible that you're right. You can lose so many of these guys, but then you still look at the side and you go, okay, well, Isaac Tungo comes in. Taylor May's in. Like, there's still so many. You got your Jack Coles, your Jet Clearys, all these young guys that are coming through that are still Penrith guys. Like, it's incredible how they've handled it all.
Yeah.
How they've, like, I still remember, and Matty, you'll be able to talk about it, like, when Souths won that comp in 14, you had so many local juniors. Then a lot of them left over the next few years, and I know South Sydney fans were fuming about it, and to their credit, they've managed to rebuild with your Cam Murrays, your Keons, your Campbell Grahams, these sort of guys. But, like, Penrith fans, I'm just not hearing any of that narrative. And they are pushing local juniors out. But they're just handling it so well.
So well. And I think from Critter, Lenu and Luai's perspective, I guess when you're getting a bit down about the narrative that was potentially painted, maybe I'm totally wrong, you can always remember that yous were the ones that created this next generation. It wasn't the people that come, like, obviously it was the people that come, but this next generation of Panthers, this next dominant era was created by all those boys. It's actually it's funny. It's similar-ish to Manchester United. They were called, I think, called the Fab Five, and it was like Beckham, Gary Neville, Giggs. Anyway, they came through the Manchester system, and Manchester were already relatively successful, but then they just went fucking boom. And it is similar to Penrith Panthers. You got Nathan Cleary, Luai, Critter, Bizarre, and they changed the whole area. Like they changed. Like look at the legacy that Manchester United now. I know they're fucking terrible at the moment, but it's a similar situation. Anyway,
hang on. I was just going to say it will be interesting though to see if when the direction will change if they don't win the comp this year, because it's easier to say, oh, they're just going with it, everything's all good because they keep winning. But like the South example, they only won the 1 year, and there was a lot of song and dance about it.
It's to that ruthless business point of results matter. Results cover everything. Everything. So it's you're right. It's to your point that when you are winning, you can get away with nearly anything.
Yeah.
When you are losing, everything's a problem.
And like God, it changes things when you're making these big moves and changes, and you've got Nathan Cleary who's probably 3 years away from his peak.
I don't even like hearing that shit.
Like it is crazy. And I mean, like to take for example another team that was built on a lot of local juniors, the '97 Knights. The 2001 Knights looks very different to the '97 side. But juniors came through and they managed to manage it with the key guys that were still there, you know, your Joeys, your Gidleys, these sort of guys that brought that next gen through. And I think it'll be the same at Penrith. I think there's every chance that we're looking in 2 or 3 years on a halves combination of Cleary.
You know what's even more cooked? Let's say he peaks at 32 years old. He might be 7 years away from his peak.
Which halves tend to. Look at all the halves in the game and what they achieve post 30.
The Cleary situation... You know how much we're going to look back on people.
I miss talking about Cleary.
But like, you know how much we're going to look back at and go, I can't believe we doubted this bloke. You know what I mean? We're going to be like, I mean, I didn't doubt him, but you know, we're just essentially going to go, what the fuck?
I was having a look the other day at him, and you know, and I've said it a few times. You know, people want to bag him, and I'm one of them, 100%, that he hasn't achieved it in the State of Origin arena. He's won 3 series, right? I think I looked at the other day. Thurston won 6 Man of the Match awards during his Origin. Do you remember his Origin career? Pretty handy.
Yeah.
How many Man of the Match Clearys has got? 4.
Yeah. And didn't he win when he's lost the series? Didn't he win Player of the Series for you guys?
I believe that's correct.
Anyway, anyway. Hey, chill, Cleary. If you're listening, you're about to get in the comments. Fuck you, Cleary. Blah, blah. Just chill. It's all good. We respect your opinion.
Save it for every other round.
Yeah. You're gonna look. You know what? You're gonna have plenty of time.
We've got 50 weeks to come.
You got plenty of time to have a crack. Okay. So we'll stick with the Panthers. Obviously, the last thing they needed was more motivation. The last thing. But regardless of, you know, the Panthers admin relationship with Luai, which I think is fine. I think he did seem in that press conference that he got it. He even said within the Ivan Cleary comments, he said, you know what, initially I was a bit like, what the hell? But when I sat down and thought about it, he's right. So you can see Luai has kind of come to grips with that. So I think regardless of, you know, everything that's happened, the playing group, we know they love Jerome Luai. Like, we know they love him to death. So they're a scary side for 2024. They already were. They're even more scary now. But going forward, who do you think the next guy up is?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. You got a couple of options there. Obviously, Schneider's come back from the Super League. He's arrived there. Jack Cole's another very talented young 5'8" that's coming through. Jet Cleary's probably a year or 2 off, I would say. And Dane Laurie's returned as well.
Remember when he hadn't signed yet, but there were rumours of him signing, and we said on this podcast, I think he's being signed now to see whether he could be Luai's replacement at 6.
Yep.
And it's also interesting he started playing 6 at the Tigers. I wonder if that was some conversation between, and look, probably not, Tigers and Panthers going, just chuck him in there.
Oh, that tinfoil hat's been lovely over the off-season.
I've had a lot of time to think.
Big early workout, isn't it?
Mate, a lot of time to think. Was there conversations between Panthers and oh my God, I just forgot his name. Laurie's management, and then Laurie went and said, "Look, I'd love to play 6'4". Anyway,
Kempy made a new tinfoil hat on New Year's Day, and he's already worn it out.
Yeah, I would say they're all day just going, got a new one. But I wonder whether his management said to Luai midway through the year, mate, there's a big sniff that Luai is gone from the Panthers. There's also, obviously, they're interested. You're about to sign with them. Start playing 6. Because him playing 6 did kind of come out of nowhere. To us. To me, anyway. Like, he was a fullback, maybe a winger. And then he comes and play really well. So I think the Laurie signing is really interesting. Also, he's still only 23, 24.
Dane Laurie, yeah, he's not old, yeah.
So it's a good age signing. It's also interesting. It's 1 year. It's 1 year deal.
Yep.
Because they'll see how he goes. But also, Jet Cleary? He's 16 now.
No, a little bit older. He's playing SG ball, so he's 18 or 19, I think, if you can deal that, Matty. But I'm pretty sure he's like 18, 19.
So that gives them 3 or 4 years to develop him. I guess the thing with Jet Cleary, if his name wasn't Cleary, would you have him potentially next up or not?
I don't think he's next up, but I think he is the plan in 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
I think that is the long-term plan.
So when you see him playing, you see him as definitely a guy that is going to be a good NRL half, regardless
Yes, I
of
think
name.
so, yeah. And I have been told that is in the Panthers' plans.
Okay.
That it's been spoken about.
Yeah,
It's a
wow.
thing. So,
Could you imagine? It's like a Johns Brothers reincarnate.
and that's what it's been described as.
Oh, really? So he's going to have a massive media career, Jet.
Fingers crossed.
Invest early in the Jet company.
Have you got an age, Matty?
Actually, it's so funny. So
The Jet Cleary show.
you type in Jet Cleary age, and some of these websites are hilarious. Jet Cleary's age, by all accounts, is anywhere from 16 to 22. Jet Cleary, 16 to 18. Jet Cleary was born from 2004 to 2006. So yeah, I have no idea, but I can find it. I'll
Great
find
rugby
it.
league name, Jet.
Yeah.
Unreal.
I tell you what, you want to be quick. You can't be rolling around with the name Jet and be stuck in the mud.
I'm pretty confident he played SG ball last year, which is under 19. So, yeah.
Anyway, exciting times for Panthers. I can't wait to see what happens in the future. And
The other thing about that too, which I'm sure you would have seen it floating around, but Jet scored the match-winning try in their A-grade grand final this year.
Oh, no
They
way.
did it in first grade.
You're pretty sure he played SG ball last year. You're going to be a bit sloppy, mate. All this success going ahead.
oh, wow.
Old Guru would have known his stats from round 4.
Wouldn't know more.
You've been reading the podcast downloads, haven't you, mate? Getting to your head. Hey, getting to his head. Dude, do a substantial millions amount of podcast downloads and all of a sudden he doesn't watch any footy anymore.
Don't know what you're talking about.
So look, what I love about this story, to wrap it all up with Jerome Luai, is it all ended well. Everyone kind of got what they wanted. You know, Panthers didn't have to pay overs for a 6. Jerome Luai got the huge contract and the chip on his shoulder that he loves, so he can go to a new club. Everyone kind of landed in a really good spot, in my opinion, and there wasn't a massive breakdown. There were little bumps along the road. Wasn't a massive breakdown.
Imagine if 2025, the Tigers have got Luai on over $1 million a year and Luai plays ordinary, and then Dane Laurie goes over the Panthers and is just this superstar on 120K a year and wins a grand final.
Don't you dare.
Sorry, Tigers.
You
I shouldn't
hate
have said
Tigers
that.
fans. Why are you
No,
going
I
to hurt
don't.
them,
It was just, I was like, oh, God, if that happened.
And he'll join the Tigers team that got away that you see friggin' once every 4 weeks. On Instagram, the Tigers team that got away, you literally see it once every 4 weeks. Tedesco, Mitchell Moses.
The ever-reliable Reddit says that Jet was 17 last year.
Okay. All right, now back to the Tigers. Tigers, I guess, removed their board just before Christmas. The entire West Tigers board was dismissed following a bombshell internal review. I think except one dude. I think one dude stayed. Chairman Lee, man, I really struggle with this. Hajapatelis, and CEO Pascoe have both departed. Lee's legal firm, the major sponsor of the Tigers, Bryden's lawyers are their major sponsor. They will continue their sponsor with the club for the year, which I think is all their contract is for. Former New South Wales Premier Barry O'Farrell has become the interim chairman. Ex-Rabbitohs chief executive Shane Richardson has replaced Pascoe as the interim CEO. Shane Richardson won a comp at the Rabbitohs.
Yep.
Was initially at the Panthers.
Yep.
So he was part of that rebuild. And he is also involved in the Brisbane Tigers side that is trying to get into the NRL.
Yep.
So when we talk about, the cream of the crop, some of the best in the business when we talk to CEO. He's also got a podcast with the Buy Round, Jimmy Graham's podcast. By all reports, I haven't listened to it yet, but I have had people come to me and tell me it's an incredible podcast. You've listened to it?
He's unreal on it too.
It's elite. Yeah, it's elite stuff.
So go listen to that, the Buy Round, Shane Richardson. I like interim. Maybe he's doing interim because when you come into a company, you know how long you need to find out what actually is going on? Because everyone tries to present the best version of themselves. It's not until you get into a large company that you actually can find all the little stuff that's got the Band-Aid over it, that's just been duct taped up, and you're like, so I think it's smart from Shane Richardson's perspective of it's a 6-month contract, because he doesn't want to put himself in a position where he's at this club where like, this is a disaster. Look, if they can keep those two boys, blokes, Jesus Christ. I mean, I'm sure they're one of the boys for sure.
Kempy just staunch in the form of New South Wales Premier.
If they can keep those two blokes, I know people are going to crucify me for this if the Tigers struggle, but I'm excited for the Tigers. I am genuinely excited. They are heavy hitters. Their roster is good. They got Benji Marshall. They're recruited really well. I'm extremely excited, and it's the right decision to remove the board, in my opinion. I never want to see anyone lose a job, but I think we've been pretty clear for at least 2 years now on this podcast that it was the higher-ups that needed to be changed at the Tigers. I think it's the right decision. What do you reckon, Guru?
Yeah, I agree. I think it is the right decision. We've obviously said for a couple of years that we think it's, been partly the board and there's an issue there. That's now gone. So there's, I love that there's no excuses anymore too. It's, okay, you're steering the ship now. There's no more excuses. There's no parachute.
I will say stay patient, because
Yeah.
it's not going to turn around in 12 months. It's
No, it
going to
won't.
take a bit longer than that.
But it is good that now when we're talking about the West Tigers, it's not going to be caveated with, but are they the problem?
True.
You know what I mean? Like, it's good that now, and we said it all last year, I just hope they just hand the keys to Benji from a football perspective and just say, do your thing.
Which I think Shane Richardson, he gets it.
100% he does, yeah. I think the thing that fills me with the most confidence about these guys is that they just won't get in their own way, which I think has been the Tigers' biggest problem for quite some time.
I will say, just quickly, I think Justin Pascoe has handled this extremely well. He was actually quite like, yep, it's all good, I've been removed, and just no dramas. Like, I thought there would be a little bit of dramas or whatever from, but he's been, I got a lot of respect for the way he handled getting ousted, but Timmy, thoughts about the situation?
Yeah, no, fair play on the way Justin Pascoe has, but just the whole way this unfolded, I think just justifies the decision to do it. Like, Lee comes out, from memory it was like a day or two after, and just exploded at themselves in knee-jerk reaction. Apparently he and other board members weren't consulted, and it's all just like everything that is coming out is why there needs to be a new board, because it was so dysfunctional. So as your boy said, there's no excuses now. The Tigers fans they've got something to look forward to for the future, that hopefully a brighter future ensues, because they deserve it.
Yeah, like Lee, so this was a couple of days after Lee's comments. The thing with Lee say it again?
Lee
Hadjipatelis. He's clearly an incredibly good businessman. Like, Brighton Lawyers is huge. Like, so I understand his frustration of, he's a very good businessman. The West Tigers, by all reports, business-wise, are doing well, have improved heaps. So I understand the perspective of, look at the business side of things, and I get why that there's frustration there, because he has a proven record. He's a very, very shrewd businessman. But this is not a normal business. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you make $1 billion. I mean, that would be pretty good. But if you are coming last, no one cares. No one cares. The number one priority is winning games. And that's why I'm so surprised at the fight to stay when, since coming on board, there just has been no success. It's got progressively worse and worse and worse and worse on the field. So anyway, he came out days after. He said, I feel there's been a gross disrespect shown to the West Tigers, to myself personally, by my fellow directors. We were never paid the respect of being involved or consulted as to the review. Even to this day, we have never been engaged or informed as a result of the review or recommendations. Now it appears unlikely that we will ever see the report. I think the process was disgraceful. The entire thing was a knee-jerk reaction to a petition signed by 2,000 disgruntled fans after West Tigers lost 72-0 to the Cowboys. It's perfectly understandable that our fans would vent their displeasure, but for some reason the Holman Barnes group embarked upon a review feeling compelled to do so. I believed it was some ill-conceived publicity drive which boxed them into a position which left them with no alternative but to accept the recommendations that were made, which, as I understand, included the dismissal of the entire board. I understand the idea of not being involved. I think that, yeah, for sure, that probably should be happening, is where you get asked and you get shown or whatever. But again, this idea that knee-jerk reaction to a petition signed for 2,000 disgruntled fans, it's like, you won the wooden spoon back-to-back. It's nothing to do with the petition sign.
Not to mention the 10th year in a row without finals, so it's hardly knee-jerk.
Yeah, I don't understand that. It doesn't make sense to me that there's nothing knee-jerk about this. This has been poor results after poor results after poor results. And granted, he wasn't around for the first, I think it started 2015 or so, or around there, maybe a few years ago. But yeah, I mean, this is back-to-back spoons. Like, that's not a small thing. That's not a small thing at all. So I think this is, like, as I said, you never want people to see lose their job, for sure. I get that. And I will say as well, I listened to the whole interview, and Lee was still like, I'm a Tigers fan. I'm going to support them for the rest of my life. I'll be watching them for it. So, we've read out the salacious part of it, but, he was still very much a massive fan of the Tigers and will always support them.
Just on that, Lee was the chairman since 2019 and Pascoe's 2015.
2015. Okay, so about 4 or 5 years for... so, yeah, like, got to remember, he didn't just go, burn the whole place down. I think his issue was more with the people on the board rather than the club. But, yeah, I think that... it's the right decision.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, all that, I look at that and it's just more noise that the Tigers need to be avoiding moving forward. So,
now, on to the Sharks. Addin Fanua-Blake signs with the Sharkies. I'll be honest, when we first brought this up on this podcast, it might have been, was it you, Matty, that first tipped it up? Or was it?
Yeah.
And so we started talking about the Sharkies, and initially I was like, it's a match made in heaven. It's a match made in heaven. Then it went all quiet, and I was like, oh, it's just like, there's no smoke here. There's literally no smoke between the Sharks and the Warriors. And so I thought, okay, it's just not happening. And then, boom, it drops. First of all, I want to give the Sharkies massive credit here. Like, the Sharkies are being so subtle at their improvements, and you don't actually realise how much progress they've made as a club in the last 3 years. I think this is an incredible signing. I think that this forward pack with Addin Fanua-Blake, and on top of that, I think the Warriors have come out, could you confirm this, have confirmed they're not getting a player swap. So this is just a straight signing of AFB. I love this signing, and I think the Sharks have handled the whole situation masterfully.
Yeah, it sort of just came from nowhere, didn't it?
Like, everyone was talking Dragons, they were talking every club except the Sharks. And then just, boom, drops.
Yeah. And I even thought by some of, Shane Flanagan's comments over the months, I thought Dragons were a real
junior
good thing. Yeah. It came out of nowhere, and credit to the Sharkies.
No leaks, nothing.
Nothing. And credit to Craig Fitzgibbon as well. Like I said a few months ago, like the fact that before he even had a coaching game under his belt, he had signed Nico Hines, he had signed Dale Finucane, these sort of guys. And you know what? Like they've made finals, but there is still concerns around the Sharkies.
For sure. But
fairly or unfairly, and he's managed to get an AFB.
I get that. I get the concerns about the Sharkies, and I understand why fans are like, look, we've got this good roster, we should be, delivering in the big games. But you have to compare it to where the Sharks were. Like, you've got a 26, 27-year-old Dally M7 at the club. When was the last time you had a Dally M7 at the club that's now played for New South Wales? And did he play for Australia? He did play for Australia, didn't he?
Yep.
For Australia. Like, that's not... And then you look at the roster around him. You've got Mulatalo. You know what I mean? Like, this roster a few years ago was nowhere near the roster it is today. Obviously, when they won the comp, the roster was better. But what I'm saying is since that Lewis, Gallen, all those boys retired, they've kind of been okay. Whereas this they're going so well at the moment that people are angry that they don't go deeper into the finals. Whereas before Fitzgibbon came in, if you said, he's going to sign the Dally M Player of the Year for unders, and you're going to be, coming second that year and blah, blah, you'd go, are you serious? I'll take that any day of the week.
Yeah, completely agree. But it is, it almost sounds negative to the Sharks, but it's a compliment that I'm expecting more from them. Yeah. That's the sort of side they've got and it's the sort of squad they've got. And adding AFB is huge. I look at Addin Fanua-Blake, and is he a top 5 front row in rugby league? I definitely think so.
Absolutely.
But then I also look at him, and I still think that there is a bit of a gap between him and, your Payne Haas's and your James Fisher-Harris's, and I really want to see AFB. And once again, I say this about AFB because I know he can get to that level as well. I think he is the absolute best front rower of the rest, but I want to see him really push into that Fisher-Harris and Payne Haas sort of echelon for me.
You don't reckon he did it last year? No. Didn't he win the Dally M?
Not against those sides he didn't. Against the other
Yeah,
sides, he
that's
did. But when I see him go up against Payne Haas and Fish, I still feel there's a gap between them. And I think I know AFB has got the potential to close that gap, and that's where is what we spoke about a few months ago when we were talking about is he worth $1 million, and that's why I say no, because I don't think he's quite at that.
$1 million of the old cap.
In the old cap, yeah.
New
And
cap,
that's
you'd
new
probably-
cap around there, but probably not $1 million still, because I want to see him go to that next level.
Yeah, okay. Timmy, what do you reckon?
So excited for the Sharkies. We've sort of sat there in the last 2 years, said, or probably not last 2 years, last 12 months after that breakout season under Fitzgibbon, said, they're getting towards becoming a premiership threat, but still just being off. I had at the start of this year them really pushing for, deep into September footy. Fanua Blake comes in, one of the best middles in the game. I'm with Guru, probably just off Tino, Payne Haas, Cup these boys, but not far off. He was enormous last year. The other thing with Adam Fanua Blake, he's 28 years old, just turned 28 in November, so, he's a veteran of the game. It feels like he's been around forever, but again, there's no reason why if he's not fit and healthy that he can't get to that level. So the Sharkies, I think you'd be relatively bold not to say that they can't really compete for a title over the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. See, I would have, if you're saying he's not, 1, 2 like Payne Haas and Fisher Harris and that, or I still would have him in the same tier though. I would still have him in the same tier. I really do think he offers something quite unique that those boys actually don't offer. I think he's quite a different front rower to them. I'm trying to think of, was he the front rower in the year that the Manly went on that great run?
No.
No, he
just left.
So when you said, has he done it against the big teams, that's a good point. I'm trying to think, has he done it against the best front rowers?
For me, Adam Fanua Blake really represented like the New Zealand Warriors this year to me. They are a great side. They are a top 4 side. But are they going to be able to compete with the best of the best? And I didn't think so all season. Now, AFB, I'm not saying he can't compete with them.
Do you think that if you put him in those sides, though, he would be able to?
Potentially, but I don't know. I want to see it. Like he was in a top 4 side this year.
But
going
like,
to the Sharkies.
I guess the question would be, when you look at the Warriors forward pack and then you look at the Panthers and the Broncos, his job is harder than the Panthers and the Broncos because he's the main guy. Like all they have to do is
but I saw Payne Haas in one of the worst sides I've ever seen still be dominant week to week.
We're talking about a GOAT front rower.
But mate, that's what I'm saying though. Like I think AFB's got all the skill set, and you're right, he has got little things in his game that Payne Haas and Fisher Harris can't provide, and I just want to see him go to that next level and really push those guys. It's like, once again, I sound like I'm being an arsehole at AFB. It's only because I expect so much of him because I know how fucking talented he is and that he has got, you're exactly right, things that those other guys can't offer.
Because you could make the argument, Adam Fanua Blake led the Warriors, a side that a lot of people had, fucking last or 14th or 15th or 13th or whatever, to a prelim. Whereas Payne Haas for a few years, he was in a spoon side. Even though again I still have Payne Haas as number 1 for me, but I'm just I think what I'm not sure of, how far behind Fisher Harris, Leota, and Payne Haas is he, and Tino?
As I said, I don't think he's too far behind, but I wouldn't have him in that absolute top tier.
Okay, so not in the top tier.
No, I'd have him the absolute top of the next tier, no doubt about it. But I want to see him take that next step.
Okay, he's definitely top tier for me. Timmy, top tier or just the top of the next tier?
I'm happy to go top of the second tier. Payne Haas, Tino, Fisher Harris, Leota's probably top of the second tier.
It's hard to split Fisher Harris and Leota.
It's so hard to split.
They're hard guys to put in.
I want to put Fisher Harris ahead of Leota, but then I'm like, based on what? Like, they do everything the same, just destroy people. So it's like, let's just partner them together.
Yeah. Top tier or top of the second tier?
No, I got him top tier. He was ridiculous last year, but I do understand exactly what you're saying, Guru. I have a question for you guys. Are you guys happy he went to the Sharks? Because I think I'm in the minority here. I did not want him to go to a lower team. I didn't want him to go to a rebuild team. It's not like the Luai situation. Luai's won 3 comps. Adam Fanua Blake has been in a good team for maybe last year, and you could argue all the other years, he was part of a Warriors team that didn't make finals. Manly didn't really make the finals that much. I wanted Adam Fanua Blake to go to a team that can challenge. I'm just wondering if you guys feel the same.
Has he not gone to a team that can challenge?
That's what I mean.
No, that's
what I'm saying. All the talk was he's going to go to Dragons.
Oh, you wanted so the talk was people wanted him to go to a bottom tier side to help him.
Yeah, exactly. People wanted that. I'm stoked that he went to the Sharks.
Matty's like, South Sydney were crying out. I was disappointed that he didn't. Firstly, I was disappointed he was leaving the Warriors after what they've built. I wish he stayed there and kept going with it. But, coming back here, probably got family here, or not probably, he has family here and all that. Who knows what reasons. I would love to have seen him lob at the Doggies or the Dragons. I really would have. And for AFB, he wants to come and compete for premierships immediately. I get that. So it's no knock on his decision. But just as a rugby league fan in general, I saw the Dragons battling last year, the Doggies, and I just want to see the playing field levelled. I think the Bulldogs are building towards something so special, but they're so in need of a middle forward and a dominant one. I would love to have seen him land there. I think he would have been some X factor in that Dragons pack. But
I think the Doggies. I actually saw a tweet. I hope it's real. You just never know these days. Bloody the interwebs. It'll get you. It'll get you, mate. But Gus Gould, I think a comment basically said like everyone's been crying out for a middle at the Bulldogs. Like we don't have the middle isn't that great, and he responded, basically stay patient. But apparently he's like our young forwards coming through in a few years. You are going to absolutely. So it seems like they're doing a similar thing to what the Panthers did, where they almost cleaned out some of the older boys and just said, we're going all in on the youth. Because you'd almost be shocked why the Bulldogs wouldn't sign a guy like.
Yeah. There's an extraordinary amount of similarities between Gus's early days at Penrith and what's happening at the Doggies right now. They are staying patient. They're building slowly. It's not going to come overnight, but there's a lot of good signs in place. They want results this year, not winning grand final, but building towards finals football. But the signs are great at the Doggies.
In answer to Matty's question, I love that he signed at the Sharks though, because
I love it. It's like a left field signing for me.
It's good. Yeah, it's something a little bit different. You would expect him to sign at a bottom club for a Mozza, but I like that he's gone to the Sharkies and
him under Fitzy.
Yeah, I love it,
Serious?
and I love watching the Sharks play because I find them so entertaining. I love their brand of footy. I love Nico Hines. I equally find them so fucking frustrating because I think they should achieve more than what they have the last 2 years. Because I have high expectations, and Adam Fanua-Blake is exactly the same, and I really do hope that the Sharkies can take that next step and proper compete come finals time.
Imagine Nico behind the front row like that.
Unreal.
He is a running seven. Like he is an on the ball, in your face, play what you see, and he's going to do it off Adam Fanua-Blake.
And I love the Sharkies forward pack at the moment. I think it's one of the better forward packs in the team in the comp. But I look at it and go, okay, who's the alpha?
Yeah.
Who's the guy in that pack? There isn't really a guy. There's very good players.
Like Hunt has moments, and Rudolph will have some moments, but they don't week in week out dominate the forward pack.
Exactly right.
Not just Nick. I'm excited for Blake Brayley. I think he's got one of the better running games in the competition as a 9. I think we've seen enough bits and pieces, but like we saw what Fanua-Blake did for Wade Egan. Wade Egan this year went through the roof, and I think Blake Brayley's running game off the back of Fanua-Blake, what he'll do through the middle, the amount of damage he'll do, the quick play of the balls, I think Blake Brayley can go to another level.
And I also think with AFB, and when you're talking Blake Brayley, when you're talking about Hines, he's as dangerous with the ball as he is without it.
Yeah.
I think you look at the way the Warriors, and especially Sean Johnson, used him over the last couple of years, the way that they just put him in certain spots, like one of their pet plays was going down that left side, AFB, they'd face ball him to Jackson Ford. It's just all the eyes are all on AFB, and there's so much you can do around him. And I think it is something that, as you said, he can do things that certain other players can't. I think AFB's awareness is a little bit underrated in that facet of the game.
Man, him under Fitzgibbon, him with Dale Finucane, there's a lot to love. I'm excited. And as I said, I like that it's like this left field signing. I don't know why, but I just never pictured AFB in a Sharkies jersey. I pictured him in a Doggies jersey. I could see him in a Rabbitohs, a Dragons. But a Sharkies jersey, it just didn't, I don't know why, but even though we were sitting here saying it's probably the best fit out of the lot, I will say, tiny bit surprised there wasn't whispers the Rabbitohs were interested. Because Burgess is this his last year in his contract or one more?
Last year his contract, yep.
So, Burgess is their big dog. He'd be on, I'd assume, a good wicket. If you want to replace like for like, I know they're a different type of player, but what do we always talk about? Like the alpha dog in the pack. Well, it's Burgess I know Totola has kind of taken that mantle, but Burgess is the guy. He is the main guy. Very surprised there wasn't at least a little bit of chatter because he's from the Mascot area.
He's a Mascot junior.
And he would fit that, imagine that roster if AFB come to it.
Yeah, it'd be a good fit.
Oh,
And especially, he's not a front row forward that people talk about much, but with Harm Saleh leaving, South Sydney are going to miss him so much.
Yeah, agreed. I am a little bit concerned of the pack of the Rabbitohs, but we'll get into that. We've got a few weeks to do that. Anything else on AFB arms? The Warriors. I'm actually really upset's a strong word, but I'm actually a bit sad for the Warriors. I think they've been dudded in this whole situation, and not dudded in. I am absolutely taking nothing away from the personal stuff going on in AFB's life. I know people like to say, "Oh, he left Manly." Guys, things change in people's lives. Like you can have family issues multiple years, so you have to take this guy at his word, unless you've got evidence to suggest otherwise. So this is to take nothing away from the seriousness of what's going on in AFB's life, the reasons for why he needs to come back to Australia. But I do think massive losers in this are the Warriors. We have seen how hard it is to find a big alpha dog in the middle. What is essentially the one thing that all the lower tier clubs are missing?
Yeah.
It's a big alpha dog in the middle. Like, it really is. And you go, you could say that about any position. Yeah, you could probably say it about number 7, maybe fullback and front row. But it doesn't get appreciated enough that the front row, like, for example, Bromwich, when he was at the Storm, I think he was one of their highest paid players. Like, that should tell you something. The Melbourne Storm, the most dominant club of the last 20 years, was paying their front rower one of the biggest wages in the comp. And a guy like AFB, I really hope that the Warriors, they've got time to obviously go out and sign with their money is going to free up, or they've got young guys coming through, because from what I see now of who they have, they don't have a ready replacement for AFB.
Yeah, I don't think they do. And bloody tough to have a replacement for a guy like him. Same as, and as I said, I've got him at the top of that second category. It's impossible to have a replacement for Fish. It's impossible to have a replacement for Payne Haas. Like, you cannot find these guys around. I do feel sorry for the New Zealand Warriors, and I think it is just the unfortunate reality of...
For example, the reason, like, obviously I'm closer to the Broncos, so I know a little bit more about them. There's obviously no replacement for Payne Haas, but there are... young guys that they have in their squad that they go, they're not going to be Payne Haas, but he's something special. We think he could be the next guy. The thing, I look at that Warriors squad, I just don't see in that squad currently. And look, no one loves rookies more than us coming out and exploding and killing it. But I just don't see in that squad currently a guy that could replace. If I'm being honest, so Barnett ended up moving to the middle, didn't he?
Yeah.
So you're already bringing an edge. He was edge at the Knights, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
So he played both.
A bit of both.
Yeah.
But you're already bringing in a guy that can play both rather than an out-and-out front rower. So they're already a little bit light in the front row. And to lose AFB, I'm upset for the Warriors.
You add in one of the stalwarts of the middles there, Tohu Harris. So much admiration for that bloke, but he looks like any game could be his last because he's just that much bandage.
He's too
on
tough
him.
for his own good.
He's so tough, but he gets so many little injuries. He just seemingly plays through them all. But man, he's been tough throughout his career. But certainly twilight of his career as well, playing arguably the best footy of his career. But another year on, hopefully not, but potentially a few injuries come as well. Who comes in? Who's next?
Warriors, so Webster has been a revelation, killed it. I could see, it's like anything in life. It's not just all the way up and let's go. There's little bumps in the road and you go back up. I could see a slight lull for a year or two with Webster as he regenerates the next guys coming through. Honestly, if he can keep that top 4 finishing over the next few years, it will be nothing short of a miracle. Because how the hell could you do that when the systems weren't even in place for these juniors coming through other than this year?
Yeah. I think as well, as you said, with when you're replacing front row forwards, especially a guy like AFB, I can give you a list of 1 million guys who were the biggest guys in reserve grade and in the juniors that dominated, but you don't know how those guys are going to handle it until they get into the fucking arena.
Oh, absolutely.
AFB's come into the arena and has dominated. He's a Dally M front row forward. He's right at the top tier of front row forwards in our game, and it's all good and well. There's going to be so many next Payne Haases over the next 20 years that just come to absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Because it is really easy. Like you go back to that Toyota Cup and you look at those teams of the years, all these front rowers that had these unbelievable seasons, they last 15 games in first grade because they come up against men and it's a different story.
Yeah.
You got all these big body front row forwards through junior grades that look like they're going to promise the world, deliver an Atlas. It's hard.
That's one of your best.
Like that one?
That is actually fucking unbelievable.
How long's that been in the back pocket for, mate?
In the swag for a while.
That is That's one of your.
Is great.
That is so good. I've literally never heard that, Guru. You are on fire this year. You've had your
my
Dally
best
M
year
right
yet.
now. Yeah, best year, yeah. Holy, promise the world, deliver an Atlas, eh? Oh my God.
Yeah, that's red hot.
Oh, that's great. Everything done on AFB, boys?
Yeah,
and the
that's
Warriors?
enough. Yeah.
All right, before we get into the next episode, not next episode, sorry. Jesus, cancel already. The next segment, don't forget to grab a case of Bloke Beer, the beer of rugby league. Plus, we got some really cool plans this year. I should have said it at the top of the show, but I'll say it now. OGs who remember the Bloke Club, it still exists. You guys all get text message when we drop stuff. But you also, OGs remember, like at the start, I really tried to make, you get discounts, you get early exclusive access and blah, blah. This year, we are going to be building out the Bloke Club so you get way, way more. And I've got really, really big plans for it, guys. So if you haven't, join the Bloke Club. 30,000 members strong. Go to www.bloke.club because we are, I really want to make it a club, an actual club where you guys get some cool stuff. Let's get into it though. Also, grab a case of Bloke Beer. Tommy Dearden re-signs with the Cowboys until 2029, signing a 5-year extension as a stay there. I mean, this was a no-brainer for the club. This was a no-brainer for Dearden. In regards to the figure, even if it is $1 million, I don't think it's overs. I think if it is, let's say it's $1 million each year, it's actually unders because by the time he gets in his 4th or 5th year, if he continues to go where we think he will, it'll be a bargain. I think it's a great signing. When you talk about players suiting clubs, Dearden suits the Cowboys. He really does suit the Cowboys. Great signing, exciting times for the Cowboys.
Yeah, it suits him down to a T, and I think that he is right on the edge of becoming a proper premier half in our game. And I think it'll time really well that when Chad's career comes to an end in the next, what do you reckon, year, 2 years?
I reckon maybe even this year.
Maybe this year, yeah. Wouldn't shock me. I think Dearden's ready to lead a side. And, if you have any question marks about that, I think Origin just puts it to bed.
Mate, I was shocked how well he was good.
It was unbelievable.
I couldn't believe his debut. Suncorp Stadium, no Munster. You're replacing Cam Munster. It was Cam Munster you replaced, correct? Yeah. Like in Suncorp, come out essentially first touch try assist. Craziness.
Yeah.
Craziness.
And I just love how tough the kid is. He's got all the talent in the world, which is great. But
I actually think, to your point as well, I actually think we're not even close to how good he's going to get.
Yeah.
I actually think there are parts of his game, because I'm not sure, and we'll ask the question, or we'll ask it now then. Do you believe he's going to be a 7 long-term, a 6 long-term? I believe the 5-year extension says to me he's going to be the 7. I don't know why you would extend a 6 on 5 years unless they're like, I mean, did Cam Munster even sign a 5-year deal? You know what I mean? Like, whereas a 7 I can understand. He is the guy that's going to lead. And so I do believe he's going to be their 7 long-term. And so if you could get his running game and everything he does really well at 6, plus add-on game management, you're looking at one of the best halves in the comp.
And I think in the brief instance we've seen him been the main dominant player, I think he has got that in his game. I think he'll be a 7 for sure, in my opinion.
What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, there are blokes who sign long-term deals and, you have your reservations around, be it, injury history. Are they players who is there going to be not so much attitude problems, but, when they sign a long-term deal, is the foot going to come off the gas a bit? They get comfortable. They might not put in as much. There's always question marks around them, especially when they're on big money deals like they tend to be over these long-term ones. Tom Dearden, no concerns at all. He's seems to be well respected in the playing group. He seems like he's a legend of a bloke, a real hard trainer, a player who just works and works and works at his craft. I just think it's such a great signing and just locks in such a key piece of their puzzle long term. I'm so happy for Tommy and the Cowboys that he's locked in there. Even though the early signs in his career are number 6, I've always seen Tommy as evolving into a number 7, just because I think he's got that leadership about him. He's a talker on field. I think he will easily be able to get a team around park. The fact that he's next to a bloke like Chad Townsend, who is so experienced, he's a premiership winning half. I just think it's tailor-made, and the evolution is when Chad goes, whether it's after this year, the next year, Tommy's just going to step in and be, well, he's already that man just about, but I love it.
Munster was a 4-year deal.
It's a 4-year deal.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So 4-year deal. Because it was 5 years because it's an extension.
Yeah.
4-year deal. I see him as a 7 long term. Cowboys are in such an interesting position because underachieved this last season, but when you look at their roster, you go, they're almost the most underrated roster in the comp. They've got, I think, the equal most amount Origin players in their roster. Aren't too old, like they're not a super aging roster. I know some of the, Taumalolo and Holmes are around the 30 mark, but it is an exciting roster. Like it is quite an exciting roster.
I love their roster. Like I felt like last year we were constantly trying to find spots for all these exciting forwards to come in. And in my opinion, they've got a representative 9, 7 and 1 that are going to play there for the next 5 or 6 years. I think the Cowboys are in a very, very good spot.
And you've got Nanai, you've got Leilua, who I think was probably one of their players of the year last year. Holmes, you've got the big rangy back rower. Lukey hasn't hit his straps yet.
Yeah, Fine Fuiaki. There's a lot of very good players.
Tuolangi. Another stat that I thought was really interesting from Origin that I saw on NRL on 9. Tuolangi actually ran for the most metres for Queensland in the series this year.
He was very underrated.
Yeah, and it's just kind of got, all the talk was kind of around Selwyn, I think, this year, and then someone else, Selwyn got injured. Did he get injured or get dropped? And someone else
played game 1, got dropped, didn't he?
Got dropped. So initially it was about Selwyn being like the star, because he had that incredible moment the year before. Selwyn.
Yep.
Or was that this year?
No, that was the moment that he kicked infield to Dane Gagai. That was game 1 last year. That was after our live show. Yeah.
But Tuolangi is, it was a coach that came in game 3 this year.
Yes, I think it was.
Or game 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tuolangi kind of just flew on the radar, and I'm guilty of this as well. But the most metres in an Origin from a winger for a Queensland, when you got guys like Paddy Carrigan and the big boys up front, that's nothing to sniff at.
Huge knock. Yeah, I really like where the Cowboys are heading. As I said, they've got that spine sorted. And even some of their, with all due respect to him, he's put egg all over my face. The winger that they signed from Canberra last year,
Sammy Valemai.
Yeah, he
exploded.
God. He exploded.
That is one of the great turnarounds in a footballer I have ever seen.
Yeah,
I could not believe how well he went up there. They've recently, and I think it's flown under the radar massively, they've signed Valea from the New Zealand Warriors, who he hasn't played a heap of first grade, but
centre?
He's got so much ability.
He has a ton of ability.
He could explode up there. They've still got Laybutt, who's a very talented guy as well. They are in a very good spot.
He was just starting to get comfortable, Viliami Valea, this season, and then he had an injury that kept him out for a fair while, and it just hindered his progress this season, but he could be a ripping signing for them.
No one's talking about him.
Yeah,
he
that's
could
a really
do
good point.
big things up there.
And you're getting forced out essentially by Vasicek, so it's not like you're getting, he's competing with guys and Rocco Berry obviously hit some really good form, but you look at him and guys that come from the Warriors, sometimes they go to clubs, like you look at Papali'i, you look at Valemai. I know Valemai was with the Raiders, but these kind of explosive players that just need the right environment to get the best out of their natural attributes. And then obviously, I'm excited as well. But yeah, Dearden, long-term signing, great signing. One of the real feel-good stories of rugby league. At the Broncos, absolutely nightmare situation. Goes to the Cowboys, and he has been absolutely outstanding ever since. And the raps of this guy coming through were like he was a CBA. He was a CBA. Could be anything. Anything more on the Dearden signing?
No, I'm just brought up by the Cowboys.
Good, mate.
Sorry, Tuolangi was second to Carrigan.
Oh, second to Carrigan?
But still, it was only a couple of metres off.
Okay. Second to Carrigan. Hot boy Carrigan. You know what? It was the hair that got him that extra few metres. Tuolangi, bro, get a ponytail. Guarantee you out-meter Paddy Carrigan next year. Guaranteed. Because I think a few New South Wales players got confused when he said, "Get on my hair, boys." They got on his hair, literally, and dragged him forward. Dragons have signed Ronald Volkman for the 2024 season. Sully also extends 3 years, keeping him there until 2027. Great signing for the Dragons, in my opinion. Volkman's been one that I've had on the radar for quite a while. Obviously, he was at the Roosters, went to the Warriors for opportunities. Didn't seem to work out. In saying that, the New South Wales Cup team, they went pretty well, I'm pretty sure, the Warriors, and he was a big part of it.
Yeah, big part of, was he New South Wales Cup Player of the Year, or maybe it was the Warriors New South Wales Cup Player of the Year? It was one of the two.
Yeah.
Warriors,
So very, very surprised that the Warriors were willing to let him go.
I think, and as you guys all know, I've been a huge fan of Volkman for a long time. He went to, he's obviously a lot younger than me, but he went to the same high school as me, so I watched him sort of play all the way coming through. Very, very talented, and you watch him in New South Wales Cup and he absolutely brained it. It didn't quite translate in first grade. It took him a little bit longer to find his feet in first grade, and I would argue he probably still hasn't found his feet. I'm still very confident that he will.
With halves at a premium, that they wouldn't...
For sure, but you look at the New Zealand Warriors, Chanel Harris-Tavita, Luke Metcalf, Sean Johnson. There's someone else I'm missing in that list as well. Like, they are stacked. Tamari Martin, of course. They are stacked for halves at the moment.
Yeah, I just think, okay, so Metcalf, injury concerns.
Yep.
Tamari Martin, SJ and him long term. Harris-Tavita, been away for a bit. Will he come? I was a bit surprised they didn't. Now, I think that maybe, it's not a guarantee, but you'd assume Volkman is starting at the 6 jersey.
At the Dragons?
For the Dragons.
I'm not super...
okay.
He would be my 6.
Yeah. Because Flanagan's, they're saying he's a 9.
Are they? Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they've said that he's a 9.
Okay. If that's the case, yeah. And I actually thought Flano played really well at 9 last year. He played mostly reserve grade when he played 9, but he looked really good there. I would have Volkman as my starting 6, but I'm not sure if that's what Shane's going to do.
Yeah. Because I reckon that's what pulled him away from the Warriors is we're going to start you at 6.
I think as well with the Warriors, I think that they value Chanel Harris-Tavita a lot.
Yeah, okay.
And I think re-signing him, I think he's an absolute weapon.
Yeah.
He's a very good player, Chanel Harris-Tavita. So I think had Chanel Harris-Tavita not come back, I reckon there's every chance Volkman's still at the Warriors.
Could you check, did Flanagan say he was brought to the club as a 9?
This isn't a quote, but this article that I'm reading said that he was recruited as a hooker, yes. Yep.
Okay.
And also, I thought I'd throw you some stats. Volkman, 27 try assists and 8 tries last year in New South Wales Cup.
Jeez.
As a 7 or a 6?
He was a 7. 7.
Wow. I mean, this is one of those signings that, especially under Flano, it could be, really, really good for the club. Almost club changing. Because, he's 21 now, I think, Volkman. But this kid can play. You don't stay in the Rooster system.
Yeah, 21.
For as long as he did, unless you've got something special about you.
For sure.
But it's got to come together. It hasn't come together in first grade yet, but he still has the chance for it to come together in my opinion.
He's, people think it's over the top, but he is the sort of guy for me that, he's shown it in New South Wales Cup, he can do it, that if Ben Hunt was to leave in the next year or two, you could hand the keys to him with a bit of experience under his belt.
Got the quote for you. So Shane Flanagan was quoted saying the plan was to transition Kyle into a 9 over the next couple of years.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, good. Yeah, sweet.
So I'm excited. That change. I mean, look, I'm still not. I think the Dragons need to recruit more than that, but it does change a fair bit for me because a Hunt Flanagan Calves pairing isn't exciting for me. Because you'd be putting Flanagan at 6 and he's not a 6. You wouldn't be putting Hunt at 6. A Hunt Volkman 6 and 7. That's pretty exciting for me. I'd put Volkman at 6, Hunt at 7. What thoughts, guys? Thoughts?
Yeah, I do. So I was actually just thinking about the whole Kyle Flanagan stuff. I think I assumed Flano would become a halves once Amon wasn't available.
Yeah.
That changed things, but that makes complete sense. And I'd go Volkman at 6.
Jimmy, what do you reckon?
I'd go Volkman at 6, provided obviously he performs throughout the preseason. Yeah. He's just an interesting case because all the signs are positive for him. All his numbers in the New South Wales Cup sort of squeezed out due to lack of opportunity at the Roosters. They had obviously Keary there, Sammy Walker coming through, Hutcho who was around, Lockie Lamb early on, end up at the Warriors midway through 2022. Struggled to really get a start there when we thought he would have played more games and couldn't really, not so much cement himself a role because certainly by 2023 with Metcalf shining once he was available, Tamari Martin, they had options, but it's just never quite happened for him just yet. But I said all the numbers are there in New South Wales Cup, and if he was 25, I'd be like, why hasn't it happened yet? He's 21 years old.
Yeah, he's so young.
He's young. He's talented. So I'm with you. I wouldn't like the Flano combo with Ben Hunt. It doesn't make sense to me at all. But Volkman and Ben Hunt, if Volkman can sort of hit anywhere close to the potential that we've got in him, they'll be perfect. Benny Hunt runs the show. Volkman learns off him. He's a ball runner, does all that. Well, not just a ball runner, 27 tries. He's a ball player.
But his ball running is elite.
Yeah,
elite.
so they can be a great combination. devil's advocate a little bit here. He struggled to get a start with the Warriors. If he doesn't, Amon now unavailable, Flano transitioning to hooker. We've just sort of said we don't really want to see a Flano combination with Ben Hunt. Like, who else do they have in line there to potentially play in the halves if it doesn't work out that way?
Yeah, look, devil's advocate, you're right. Devil's advocate also, letting Sullivan go to then go and sign another guy that's in New South Wales Cup when Sullivan has played good footy in first grade looks like a crazy decision.
The less we think about that, the better. The better we'll sleep at night.
Now, Sullivan, look, I read from when Sullivan had that interview, it seemed to me that he just wanted to play first grade. It didn't seem to me that he got offered a mozza from the Tigers and that's why he left. Now, maybe he eventually did get offered a better contract at the Tigers and that's why he went there. But I'll just never understand the Sullivan moving on part when you knew Amon had his situation going on. I will never understand that.
Isn't it funny how quickly that scenario has changed, where the Dragons had
too much depth.
Too much depth in the halves to now very questionable. And the Tigers, who were not so much the opposite because they've lost Luke Brooks, but they've now got all these halves. Luai coming 2025 going, this isn't all going to fit.
Yeah.
Gee, the game can change quickly.
So quickly. I'd love to know more about that Sullivan situation. I really, really would. Does not make sense.
Just having a look through their squad that they've got here, like, if Kyle Flanagan's a 9, like, if it's not Ben Hunt and it's not Volkman, your next best option is probably Jack Bird at 6.
Yeah,
there's literally no one else
it.
in their squad that's a... Paul Turner's the other one, but hopefully those two can stay fit.
Yeah, look, if Volkman kicks off, it's going to be masterstroke.
It puts a lot of pressure on Volkman.
Oh, massive. But if he hits his straps as the guy, because what's going to be exciting for Volkman is he's going to a club, he's the guy. Look, if we believe everything that's been said, he is going to play first grade at that club at 6 in the 6 jersey. Clears his head, he can do the whole preseason as the guy, the whole preseason essentially as a partner to Benny Hunt. That may be just the thing he needs to fulfill his potential. Put it this way, let's say he hadn't played NRL yet, and we just looked at his stats last year. We'd be going, this is a great pickup. It's just that what I have been surprised at when he had played, I don't expect a rookie to come in and kill it, but he has been a bit tentative coming into first grade. And what that says to me is just confidence. And that's what excites me at the Dragons is he's going to be, I assume he's going to be instilled with confidence as you are the guy. Don't be scared about losing your jersey. Don't be worried about it. You and Benny Hunt. Because, the Dragons, look, if the Dragons are trying to play not games, but if they're trying to set the environment up that, anyone can get that jersey, you better play well, that's the wrong way to handle this situation, in my opinion. Because in reality, you don't have anyone else to wear that jersey. So why set the environment up? I know you want to, almost scare him into the best he can be. Kids these days, most of them anyway, don't react well to that. If you say to him, like Mark Nichols was a great example. Like the reason he had an incredible year at the Rabbitohs, he was pulled aside before the year, him and Totola said, you are guaranteed a first grade jersey, you will be on the bench, and I actually think you should be starting. They went on and killed it. I think Volkman, if he gets to the club and Flano sits him down and says, mate, it is your jersey, we believe in you, we're behind you, I think that's what's going to take him to the next level. I really do.
It's a really good opportunity too. Like, you'll obviously get to see him play 5'8", but then, there'll be 6 weeks in the middle of the season when Ben Hunt goes and plays Origin. Be a good opportunity for the Dragons to see how he goes at halfback.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm excited. I'm really excited for Volkman to get a long-term opportunity to just nail down a spot, because he's a very exciting. When you talk about a highlight reel half, we're not, for people that may not have seen Volkman play much footy, we're not talking about a structured 7 that can, kick around the field. Like, he may be able to do that eventually. We're talking about a chip and chase, great footwork, incredible line break, strong in tackles, strong hip, strong base. Very exciting player. Very exciting player. Sully, look, I think I would have been shocked if Sully left. I think he's been super consistent. A couple injuries here or there, super consistent. But the Dragons would be insane to let a guy like Sully go. He's been one of their better performers over the last few years. So I think it's great re-signing.
I want to give Moses Sully a huge shout out, because it wasn't that long ago he was, falling asleep in cars, and there was 3 clubs in 2 years, and you just thought, this cannot possibly work out. To now be talking about him and confidently use the word consistent next to his name is such a credit to him.
Yeah, absolutely. The amount of players that have come through before have been challenged off field and it has beaten them as a rookie. You don't hear about them. And he was almost guaranteed to go down that path. And it wasn't little things that happened off field for him. It was big things. And I agree with you, mate. The fact that he's turned his life around, that when you see a player playing this consistent, a lot of Dragons fans and footy fans are going to look at Sully and go, oh yeah, it's always been like that. It's always been like he's just a consistent good centre in the NRL. It hasn't always been like that. This guy has overcome massive internal struggles to be the best he is today. It's an incredible achievement. And if he never plays another NRL game again, it's still an incredible achievement.
Yeah, I've been so impressed with his turnaround and just how he's matured over the last few years. It's, you know, and people say, oh, he's at the Dragon. Sure, to be at an NRL club and to be signing 3-year deals and to be as consistent as he is from where he's come from is an incredible achievement.
Oh, yeah, he's at the Dragons. Go watch his last few games for Manly then. Honestly, go watch it. He fucking tore the teams apart. It's the reason why he had to leave Manly, because they didn't have a spot for him, because at the time they had locked in their players and he killed it so much.
Yeah.
Speaking of getting the rig in shape, Val Tafade.
Ooh, big boy. Looking
Dolphins.
very explosive.
Jeez, he's looking good.
I tell you what, Wayne Bennett, the master, just gets him in the media, you know, gave him a kick up the bum. Otherwise, he's gone. I'm going to get rid of him. 6 weeks later, he looks like friggin', looks like The Rock.
Prime Mal Meninga.
Prime Mal Meninga. So what you're saying is he's basically as good as Mal Meninga. Is that what you're saying, Tim?
If he moves to the Raiders, he will. On Sully, awesome for him, awesome for the Dragons. You know, we've said they've lacked a bit of strike in the past. Obviously, Sully's been there. Well, he's been a strike weapon for them, hasn't he? And flow-on effect of this for me, the impact it's going to have, because Jack Bird has publicly come out and said that he wants to go back and play centre like he did under Shane Flanagan at the Sharks, which then leads to Zach Lomax and all this chat of does he go to fullback and get first crack at it next year? You know, Bird said he wants to play there. He said he's feeling as fit and fast as he has in years. So we could see Zach Lomax at fullback, where just all a little bit exciting, because I like Jack Bird at centre as well. I think when he's fit and has that speed, that agility, I think it's his best position. So
I think it's his best position when a squad can afford it to be.
Of course, yeah.
You know, because like the reason why he hasn't played that position is because he's always in squads that need him to play back row.
Anywhere but centre.
Anywhere but centre.
Yeah.
But you look at his time at the Sharkies, and Broncos was a write-off because of the injuries. But they could afford, they had Luke Lewis, Wade Graham. Like, they don't need an edge back rower, they don't need a six row. So I agree with you, mate. To make matters more interesting, over the break it comes out that Sloan has been continuing to train with the club across the whole break. And you go, look, I'm still I'm not confident that the Dragons will make 8 this year. I think their roster needs to improve a lot. I think they need to recruit, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not overly excited this year. But all the ingredients of getting better seem to be coming out of the club, if you know what I mean, from where they were only, 2 months ago? You're sitting there going, I don't really see much upside at all at the moment. They've brought in Volkman, whereas before, Amon's gone, Sullivan's gone, Flanagan was brought as a 9. They've got guys competing for spots. Bird fitter than that. You know what I mean? Like, these are good signs. I know compared to other clubs that are in the top 4 and the top 8, then, they're just normal signs. But for a club that 2 months ago was not exciting at all, it gives me a little bit of hope.
And all those changes we've just mentioned, going to throw a lot of ifs at you here and be very glass half full and be optimistic. But if Volkman flies next to Ben Hunt, starts in his potential at 5'8", if Zach Lomax gets to fullback and hits his potential as a fullback, Jack Bird, back to we just said, we think sends his best position. There's some things to get excited about that, hopefully they all land and they all come to fruition.
Blake Laurie had his best year last year. Ravalawa had his best year last year. Lomax should probably be in the mix for Origin when it comes to talent. He's been in a squad before. And so it's a great point. There's a lot of ifs at the Dragons that, like, if everyone plays to what they can, will they win a premiership? I don't think so. Could they fight for finals? Potentially. Yes, I think they could. If everyone plays as well, the only questions I have is around their forward pack in the middle. I'm
not confident necessarily on any of those things eventuating, but
it's a possibility.
It's exciting and
Whereas
it's a possibility.
A few months ago, it was not a possibility. It was like, it's not going to happen.
And I think the biggest advantage the Dragons have, no one's expecting shit from them.
No. And Flano would love that.
Love it.
He'd be talking about it every day, and everyone's writing us off. Everyone, thinks we're not NRL stand or whatever it is.
Just on Zach Lomax playing fullback, I was having a look through his stats the other day. in the first, 15 odd games of the season, he averaged 17 touches of the football per game. In his last 7 games, he averaged 27 touches of the football.
I think he's got to be back there.
I think he does too, and I reckon he was trying to send a message to Flano, going, "Fuck, I just need more footy."
If nothing else, it's worth a crack.
Yeah. Look, the way I
got to lose.
The way I see it is this with Lomax at fullback. He's a big body with a lot of talent. Just get him in a team that doesn't have that game breaker. I know Sloan is a game breaker at times in attack, but overall when it comes to defence and attack, in a team that doesn't have that guy, he can be that guy. Just get the ball in his hands as much as possible. Yeah, it might not be orthodox. It might be a bit clunky. He might be taking too many runs. But if you get the ball in his hands enough, something's going to happen.
And the other thing about being unorthodox, I'm with you. I think particularly early on in the season, people are going to be going, what the hell is Zach Lomax going to throw at us from fullback? Like, they don't know. It's hard to plan for. It's hard to defend.
And like kick returns, little things like this. Kick returns. Okay, so Sloan, obviously a game breaker and he can make line breaks, but in contact, usually gets dominated in contact. These are little parts of the game that you don't really talk about that much, but every time you get dominated when you do a kick return as a winger or a fullback and you don't find your front, you don't get a quick play of the ball, your whole set starts differently. There is a second difference between us getting a roll on and not. Lomax will win the contact nearly every time when he runs that ball back. He's fucking massive for an outside back. So, there are a lot of upsides. Like, does he have the game-breaking speed that Sloan has? I don't think he does. But does he have more well-rounded attacking arsenal than Sloan does at the moment? I think he does. So, now, again, it's that if question. If Sloan is playing to his potential, then that all changes because we go, oh, Sloan is unbelievable. So, yeah, I think he'll get the first crack. I really do.
I hope he does. Yeah,
I really do, because I think what Flano will try to do with Sloan is the Wayne Bennett route of how much do you really want it? Are you going to go back to reserve grade and work your ass off for the first 4 weeks? If you are, I will find a spot for you in this side, whether it's wing or fullback. If you're going to go back and just do your thing or whatever, you clearly aren't desperate to be in this side. That's what Wayne does all the time. He does it to players. Sometimes players don't even deserve to get dropped by Wayne, but he does it to see how much do you want it? How are you going to react to it? Look at the Tupou thing. Publicly basically saying you either lose weight or you're gone, and boom, completely changes.
I'm not sure there's any other coach who can get away with doing that publicly. With Wayne, it's just just don't question.
Let him do his thing. And you know what? Tafade is going to be so grateful to Wayne that he did that, because him fit is scary. And when you start looking at the depth the Dolphins have in the outside backs, if he does play centre, even the edge forwards, it starts going, this is a fucking good club. This is a good club.
And you look at him in particular, I know a lot of people were critical of him at the end of last season. That wasn't year 2 of NRL for him. That was year 2 of rugby league for him.
Absolutely.
He was a greenskeeper at the stadium. Just be patient with him.
Stay patient, baby. Stay patient. Now, Joey Manu, there are reports going around that Manu was exploring his options around a code switch to Japanese rugby. It is reported it could be a short-term deal to alleviate salary cap concerns to the Roosters. He would go to Japanese rugby at the end of the season, play their season for 1.5 to 1.6 million, come back halfway through the next season on a reduced contract. It's just a rumour, guys, just reports. From a Joey Manu perspective, hell yeah, bruz, get as much money as you can. From a fairness perspective, absolutely not. This is going to open up the worst can of worms in the history of rugby league. It's even the fact that it was written, someone said, to alleviate salary cap concerns for the Roosters. What are you talking about? That's what the salary cap's whole purpose is for. It's we paid him an extra $1 million to alleviate this outside the cap, to alleviate salary cap concerns. What? What utter dribble. I don't know. Maybe I've been sitting on this story too long. It's dribble to me.
No, I agree with you. Huge can of worms. We do not need you. Occasionally, Kempy just sums something up so well that I feel like I have nothing to add, and this is one of them.
Utter dribble. Yeah. What are we even talking about here? Oh, I'm just going to go earn a $1.5 million in 10 weeks so that they can pay me $100K a year. Yeah, no worries, bro. See you. We'll see you in a few months.
I don't know. I've always wondered what Joey Manu would look like in a Toshiba Brave Lucas jersey.
We do have, Toshiba Brave fans do listen to the podcast.
Yeah, they do.
They're probably blowing up right now in comment section. You're a dog, Kevin.
We've got a surprisingly large Toshiba Brave Loopers following, so I wouldn't put a line through it just yet.
This is utter ridiculousness. And look, I'm not saying it wouldn't have come from Joey Manu, so don't hate Joey Manu for it. But yeah, this is utter nonsense. Go away. You're kidding, aren't you? Could you imagine the amount of players each year that would go away in your season to earn this kind of money? Oh, fuck. Okay.
The only person to actually nail that concept was Jordan Rapana, who did it, and he had assistance from COVID.
Yeah, and also he didn't end up playing.
I don't think he even went over there.
Yeah, and it wasn't planned. We're going to release Rapana to play and earn money, and then bring him back. He was actually released, and there was no plan to bring him back. Olam and Blore swap, not confirmed, but rumours. The wheels are turning. I absolutely love this if it happens. Olam and swap for Blore. It's clear. Very surprised at how quick the Olam Storm love affair has deteriorated, because that was such a feel-good story of a young guy that come over from PNG. Not to say that discredits that story or anything like that, but you would have bet your life on. Didn't he win Dally M Centre only 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2021.
2021. You would have bet your life that he'd be that real feel-good story that would stay at the Storm, for a long period of time. But it looks like he can't even get a starting spot at the moment. I think if you ever needed more evidence that Nick Meaney is going to play centre next year for the Storm, this is it. Also, if you stalk their Instagram, there's a picture of Nick Meaney training at centre. Just saying. Locked in, Nick Meaney at centre. That's all the evidence I need. Guru.
Just a little funny story. I think it was after their finals game last year, they bowed out. And I think it was Justin Olam and Cam Munster just looked like they were on completely different pages defensively in that game. And I remember on the Bloke podcast on the Monday, I said, I think that's the last time you see Olam in a Melbourne jersey. That just looked beyond repairable from the last few weeks. And mate, that week, I obviously spend a lot more time on Instagram than on Facebook, but I opened up my Facebook messages. I had about 70 messages from PNG fans absolutely roasting me.
Hey, we love you, PNG, baby. No roast, please. Don't roast us.
Didn't need it. Really, an emotional check I did not need. It was an experience. And, of course, it has played out that way. And him, I really like it for the Tigers. I think he's got so much potential. I think the Tigers are a little bit light on outside backs, or at least experienced outside backs.
You know what I reckon they're light on in the outside backs is the outside. I know Nofaluma used to be this. Outside backs that take the tough carries out of their own end. Like, they've got obviously a young Tupou who is now being chased by
Dolphins.
Dolphins.
I think he's
Didn't he
signed
sign
with the Dolphins.
2025?
He did sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really surprisingly low-key talking point that, what a great signing.
But you don't. It's like Wayne Bennett.
Yeah.
Mastered. It's not in the show notes, but we'll speak about it quickly when we get to it. So they had him, but he was very hit or miss and still young. And Olam is that guy that will take that tough carry every single set. And I'm trying to think of when Nofaluma was at his best, that's what he used to do. Currently, who's the guy that does that for them week in, week out?
Yeah, there isn't really.
Buller is a little bit smaller.
Yeah. Your Staines, your Brett Naden's, all very
Naden, very in and out.
Yeah.
I just don't see it. Whereas
Olam will roll up the sleeves,
and just
do
go.
the dirty work.
I love it. I love the signing.
The other one that I would love to see them play in the centres with him, and ideally I think he's actually going to be a back rower, but at the moment the other guy that takes a lot of hit-ups and goes hard is that Asuka Power.
He is so strange to understand where he's at. Sometimes I'm going, you're going to be the best centre in the competition.
I think
then
he'll be a back
sometimes I'm
rower.
like, he's just so big and strong.
Yeah.
But sometimes I look at him and I go, you are so damaging. And then other times I'm going, what are you thinking, bro?
It's the whole Tigers back five, because except for Buller, who's a freak, do the same with Stafford Toa. I'm like, are you the best centre in the NRL, or are you a long way off that? And it just changes game to game. Like, just be your best every week, mate, because you're so talented.
So talented. But yeah, I like the shout of a back rower because it simplifies his game.
Yeah.
Mate, we just need you to run a really incredible line and tackle your ass off.
He is so hard to handle.
Mate, him in contact would be a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. But it's the same, as you just said, Stafford Toa, another guy. I will never forget when he absolutely rinsed Valentine Holmes. Like,
Yes.
absolutely rinsed him.
Just before Origin. Cheers for that.
Yeah, thanks, Toa.
Stafford.
He must be a closet Queensland fan. He's like, you know what? I'm going to play my best to give Queensland the win here. And so, obviously, Holmes, doesn't mean that Holmes is Holmes. But then for the rest of the year, it was like, just didn't seem to. I don't know why he didn't get heaps of confidence from that and just keep going. Anyway, and you look at Tupou. He had those first few games where you're going, holy moly, this is next Manu Vadavai. This guy is unbelievable. And then he just went a bit quiet. Look, I think also we have to be fair to those players as well, because the environment at the club last year for the Tigers was fucking woeful. The word I got with the Tigers was basically initially they just weren't listening to Benji that much. And then the games where you saw them pull it together, and it's very convenient, but this is just a word I got out, not from anyone, not from Benji or anything. The games where we saw them go to a bit of a structure style and grind games out was Benji taking over. And I think people are going to see with Benji, he's actually going to be a much more structured coach than you expect him to be. And it was Tim Sheens that was reportedly trying to push that 2005 attack, no structure. Not no structure, but, just play from anywhere. That's the feeling I got with the Tigers and Benji as a head coach.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah, Olam, I love that. Olam to the Tigers. Imagine Olam with a chip on his shoulder. Ooh, scary stuff. Blore to the Storm is honestly one of my most exciting transfers of the off-season if it does happen.
This could be the one.
Oh,
He could be the guy that we've been waiting for in Melbourne. It's been like 2 years, but the guy that we've been talking about.
I haven't won a comp in a few years. Yeah. Waiting forever.
But he genuinely, in my opinion, could be the guy that could start to turn things a little bit down there.
Even from I do think that, look, we are talking minimal percentages here. I'm not talking a lot. I do think they've lost a little bit of their shine in the recruitment market, the Storm. I think that, and I'm talking minor percentage. Like them recruiting with Cam Smith in their roster is a very different prospect to them recruiting now. And I think if you get a young, exciting forward with like Shaun Blore in the roster, you've obviously got Nelson there already, that may help them a little bit more when they do go back into the market of, we've got this young, exciting guy with Blore, we've got Nelson Asafa-Solomona. We just need one more piece in this forward pack, and we turn from a relatively light forward pack into one of the most aggressive forward packs in the competition. So I do think that might help them. If he does hit the straps, we hope he will.
Yeah, we've spoken about him a lot on this show. He's got so much ability. If Craig Bellamy can get him to 70, 80%, they'll be flying, I think.
If Craig Bellamy can get him to that and he becomes a consistent starting edge back rower alongside Eliesa Katoa, bang, bang, it means you don't have to sort of tinker too much with putting Nelson Asafa-Solomona to an edge. So you then have middles of Welch, Nas, Kamikamitha. All of a sudden it starts to come together a little bit like if they can get the best out of Shaun Blore. And the other thing with Blore, still quite young, been pretty riddled by injuries early on in his career. So, it happens to a lot of young players. If he can stay fit, there's no reason why he can't.
I also don't think I think he's a very good edge player, but I think he could play through the middle as well.
I think he's aggressive enough too.
And I think that's what they lack at the moment. Even if he might be a better edge player, and I probably think he is, but the more I look at Melbourne, I think, do they need him more as a middle? Maybe at the moment. I think they lose too much by him going into the middle, though, on that edge there. I think that they've been really unsure of who is that edge guy that's going to... They've had battlers on the edge that kind of get through their work, but they haven't really had a guy that has exploded on the edge the way they would hope. And I think Blore will be that guy where they go, you know what, like, he just offers too much on the edge and we don't have a replacement. We've got battler replacements, but we don't have a guy that can change the game on the edge.
Heaps of explosive upside on the edge. If you need another middle, find another battler.
Yeah, I reckon you could move some of those guys that were playing on the edge probably into the middle before you move Blore into the middle. But we'll see.
For a big boy, he's so agile as well. So I think defensively, that's a massive boost on the edge.
We're talking about a guy that was the New South Wales under-19s captain. Like, this guy is a special player. So,
dare we say the name? Jack Howarth.
Oh.
Yeah. Isn't that such a...
Could 2024 be the year?
Yeah. I tell you what, that's an interest... When you put it in that perspective, you go, okay, so they want to bring Blore to the club. They got Howarth on a mammoth contract for a guy that didn't play first grade. very interesting why you'd bring an edge back rower in when you've already got a guy like Holworth ready to go.
Maybe it's not, but it feels like to me the third season in a row that I sit there and I look at him and I go, I can't believe we're in the same sort as we were 12 months ago.
Yeah. That is because like Howarth's probably not big enough to be in the middle.
No,
because they were tossing and turning between centre and that is going to be interesting. So maybe he does get pushed. Let's say Howarth does play as well as we know we can, like an Angus Crichton style edge. Then maybe Blore does get pushed in the middle.
Howarth Queensland Cup last year, 17 games played big minutes played close to 80 in all of them. 3 tries, 3 try assists, 5 line breaks. Numbers that are like, they're only numbers. They don't tell the full story.
Edge back row is really hard to tell.
It
like
is.
Numbers don't really.
It is, but like just the hype around him and being this big attacking upside back row that can also play centre. As I said, numbers don't tell the full story, but
we weren't getting reports that he was blitzing Q-Cup.
No.
But I will say, if he does play as well as we know, and we have to remember this guy is super young, guys. He's got plenty more time to develop into player. We know. If he does kill it, and they have to move, then they can move Blore into the middle, and you have a forward rotation of Blore, Welsh, Nelson, Kamakamitha, all of a sudden that forward pack completely flips on its head. Like, that's a scary forward pack.
Yeah, I think the other thing to remember is, it's been well documented over years that guys coming back from ACL, it takes 12 months to get back to their best. Christian Welsh now has that 12 months under his belt, so hopefully we can start to see some of his best footy again.
And also, it puts Nelson in a better position to play exactly the minutes he needs to play, rather than the team is desperate need for him to be on the field and gas himself kind of thing.
I will die on this hill, but I'll stick with it because I still believe in him. I still think Aaron Penne's one that he's got so much ability, just can't seem to put it together. Huge body, really good skill set. I just can't work out why it hasn't quite come together yet.
Now, just quickly, on to the Dolphins. Tupou signing. When I saw this, I was like shocked out of my mind. When you talk about truly a CBA, it could be anything. Yes, he has been inconsistent in first grade, but when he is on, he is unbelievable. Like, he reminds me, he's not the same build as a Manu Vadavite, but he had that same X factor of this massive winger that just did these crazy things. Him under Wayne, and you look at that back line with a Herbie Farnworth on one edge, Averillo, who actually ran into Kafusi. So look, I'm sitting in Bundaberg, not even Bundaberg. It's actually 20 minutes out of Bundaberg, in a pub. We're talking a population. I can't even remember the name of the place, like Bundina or something. Anyway, so it's just out of Bundaberg. I'm sitting there chilling, speaking to a fan of the podcast, and this large gentleman looms up behind me, and I'm going, I'm about to get robbed here. He's about to get rissoled. Grabs me from behind. Fancy seeing you here. Turn around. It's bloody the great Kafusi. It's a great Kafusi. And yeah, saw him there. It was great chat. He's, mate, such a nice guy. You know what, Kafusi, I know he's with the Dolphins now, but he's such a good representative of the Melbourne Storm. Like, so professional, so good. Anyway, ask him about, how's everyone going? But he reckons Averillo is killing it.
That doesn't shock me in the slightest.
Sorry, Doggies fans. Don't stay patient on the anger you're feeling right now. Let it out. Averillo, killing it. And he basically was like, he didn't say it was surprising, but he said, I don't think people realise how athletic Averillo is.
I'll tell you what, I'm very excited to see this year. Obviously, Jermaine Osako had a fantastic season. He had Branko inside him to start the season. He had about 3 or 4 different centres throughout the year. If he gets Jake Averillo inside him, he'll score more tries than he did last year.
Mate.
He's so underrated, Averillo.
Yeah. Shocked that the Doggies let go of him. Shocked. But yeah, he said, mate, Averillo's killing it. Killing it.
What was the nickname they had for Felice Kafusi last year or something?
The jukebox?
Nah, there was...
Hits all day, baby? No? Not the jukebox?
No, this is going to piss me off. Sorry.
This
is great podcasting here.
Okay. Well, they call him the jukebox now. Hits all day, baby.
No, because I remember I was on Magic Round, I was leaving the Caxton, like early hours in the morning, and someone grabbed me and said, I'm the nickname, and it was his younger sister. And I remember she said the nickname to me, and I just went, "What the fuck is that?" I had no idea. I forget the nickname now. It's a really shit story.
Yeah, those heights you hit with the Atlas call before, they've really
they've dropped
down.
off.
You've dropped your average. You're at 100%. You're down to like 30
Drop in the
now.
comments some Felice Kafusi nicknames. There's one that I am forgetting that was a cracker.
Here's a
last
question
year.
with Kafusi. And look, we love to get hyperbolic on this podcast. But I'm just going to go out there and just get super hyperbolic. Is he the most underrated back row of all time?
Yeah, he's probably up there.
Like, think about have you seen a game of Kafusi where especially was at the Storm? I know he had, suspensions or whatever. For Origin or for the Storm where he played less than a 7.5 or 8 out of 10?
Assuming Anthony LaFranchi's out of the conversation, then yeah, could entertain it. His record speaks for itself. And then what he did last year in the opening stages of the year, when we all rode off the Dolphins, was phenomenal. What he did.
Well, you look
and
at
led
Origin.
that side.
I'm going to interrupt both of you. I just remembered it. Finn Diesel was the nickname. I'm walking out of the Cax and someone grabs me and goes, "I'm Finn Diesel's sister." And I've gone, "What the fuck is a Finn Diesel?"
That is great. Finn Diesel, that is fantastic. That's great chat from the sister.
Unreal. Yeah.
That is great chat. This is how underrated Kafusi is. The Queensland team, you do your predictions, and often at times you would forget to even select him, even though he was probably the first picked every single year.
That season with the Dolphins just did so much for his entire legacy. Because, it wasn't just in this awesome Storm system around superstars. When he went out and led by example, and just the way he flew off the line as early stages, got the boys up around like, holy shit, this bloke's the leader.
Yeah. And you look, you got to look at the Storm. Remember there was a period there where their edge defense, and I mean, it still is not the best. That all starts with your edge back rower. And I know they lost both Bromwich and Kafusi on the edges. But for how many years has Origin, Queensland's defence and Storm's edge defence been the best in the business, bar none? It all starts with your edge back rower.
It kills me so much. He's played 14 games for Queensland. Tell me he would have played 14 games for New South Wales.
Not a chance.
Not a hope in
There's
fucking hell.
not a chance he gets selected for
No way.
New South Wales. And yet, I guarantee you, at the selection table, he was outside of the Immortals, he would have been locked in.
Yeah. I've said it before, and as you said, your edge defence is so important. I remember talking to Branko Lee years ago, and he pretty much said to me, he goes, "Fuck, I went down there with no idea how to defend. Stood next to Felice for 6 months, and it just all made sense all the time."
Wow.
That's crazy. That is, yeah. Anyway, he's such a nice guy, legend of a guy. Now, what else are we going to talk? Oh yeah, Dolphins. Tupou signing. A Tupou signing. I mean, think about it. Do you think? Okay, so you got Osako on one wing. Who do you reckon starts the other wing?
So your centers will be Averillo and Herbie.
Yep.
And then who was the other winger last year? You had like a Jennings up there. I'm shooting a blank.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the other winger too. Tessie New sometimes.
Tessie New was up there, yes.
Because what excites me is this. Hamiso at fullback, Herbie Farnworth one centre, Averillo the other centre, Osako on the other wing, and Tupou playing his best footy. That is a top 8 backline.
That list of Tigers players that got away, you start getting the ink wet for that because he's so talented.
He's so imagine him under Wayne.
Yeah.
What he's going to do. That incredible. So who ended up playing the most on the wing there? Do you know? Or no?
I'm just looking at their squad, but like you've also I keep on even forgetting that Edric Lee's up there. He's another option.
injured,
You got young Jack Bostock, who was very talented when he came in.
Did he play centre or wing?
He can do both, but I think I think he's more of a centre, but he played wing in first grade. Geez, Herbie Farnworth looks good in a Dolphins kit.
Mate, is he getting better looking by the second, or is it just me? That picture of him training, it should be illegal. That should be classed as porn. But yeah, you look at that back line, you go, young, explosive. And Osako's still only 27 or so. He's not actually that old.
Not that old, yeah.
27. Hamiso, 23, max, 22. Herbie, 25. Like, this is an exciting back line, and it's just what Wayne does best. Like, I know Wayne's, it's his last year this year, but Jesus, it's exciting. Jesus, it's exciting. Okay.
Tessie New played 17 games. So
And like to have a guy like Tessie New who has all the potential. It's the writing. Like he could eventually like it's hard. It's almost like when you sign a guy like Tupou, do you keep Tessie in there or do you give Tupou the crack? But Tessie New's only like 23 or 24. So who's to say he can't?
He's 22.
He's 22. And how much footy experience he has, NRL experience he has. So, like, look at the depth they have in their backline right now. Tessie could explode and become the player we know he can come. And then you've got guys like Bostock, who was also plenty of potential. All of a sudden, it's a backline similar to the good years of the Broncos backline, where you've got guys in reserve grade that would walk into starts, at other clubs.
Jermaine Osako scored 27 tries in his first 88 games of first grade. Last year, he scored 24 in 24 games.
Good.
Jesus. And at the start of his career, it wasn't like he was at a wooden spoon club. I know, the Broncos ended up struggling, but he was at a good club.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else, boys?
All good.
All good. Big Bash. We are well into the Big Bash season now, with Brisbane Heat currently sitting well ahead of the ladder, as you guys know. I try to tip yous up, they'd be ahead of the ladder, but it's okay. It's all right. The Sydney Sixers and the Perth Scorchers, as usual, are lingering up the top. As usual, every year I watch the Big Bash, they are always lingering up the top. And we have a couple of absolute thrillers coming up. On Wednesday night, the Brisbane Heat host the Perth Scorchers in a match that could seriously impact the finals. So if you're in Queensland, make sure you get to the Gabba for that one. Then, for everyone in Sydney, we have the Sydney Smash. The Sydney Smash. I love the Sydney Smash. On Friday night between the Sixers and the Thunder at the SCG. So don't miss out on that either. And enjoy your cricket. Linger around some good cricket.
Geez, I hope everyone enjoys this podcast as much as Matty has.
He's just excited to be back, baby. So get down, watch the Big Bash. I actually have been watching the Big Bash this year. I'm actually slowly getting into cricket. I really am.
Slowly.
Slowly.
Dived head first.
Look, when you are Mr. Cricket, you don't just take the mantle and just, people that have been watching cricket for 20 years, I've been watching it for 30 years and I still think I'm a rookie.
Yeah, I'm slowly getting into rugby league.
Make sure to watch the Big Bash. Get down to the Gabba. Get down to the Sydney Smash Friday night between Sixers and Thunder. We all see the clips of the enjoyment at the games, guys, so get down there and enjoy a bit of Big Bash cricket. Dave Warner retires. Dave Warner played his last test during the week. When he came off for the last time, he received a standing ovation from the SCG. He played 112 tests for Australia. He's also retired from one-day international cricket. Very polarising guy, but I think that history will be kind to him. Obviously, all jokes aside, from the cricket that I have watched, I think people aren't appreciating having an opener like that although, yes, can be inconsistent or whatever, I don't think they're appreciating how hard being an opener is. Timmy, you can speak more on that. This is just from a newbie, but a guy at the top of your roster, at the top of, as an opener, the amount of times you can just rely on Warner to at least get the job done, I don't think that's getting appreciated enough, but I would love to hear your thoughts.
Enormously, mate, and the proof is right in front of us, and that's the last 15 odd years since we lost Justin Langer and Matty Hayden, who, off the top of my head, Matty Hayden averaged a tick under 50, might have been 40 out of 49 in his career. I think Justin Langer was around about 45 max. They're two of our greatest, not just ours, but cricket's greatest openers of all time. David Warner finished with, he was just under 45. I think he needed 90-odd runs to get to 45 for his career. And during this time, he hasn't had an overly stable opening partner throughout the past decade. Usman Khawaja, the last few years, has really nailed down that spot alongside him. They've become great mates and done a stellar job with seeing the Aussies rise back to the top of Test cricket. And as I said, love him or hate him, what he's done at the top of the order for Australia across all formats. He's one of our most successful players across all formats. It's undeniable. And, people say, he's a flat track bully at home. That didn't do as much overseas, but, he was stronger at home like every Australian cricketer. He had plenty of success overseas. So, Davey Warner got a really nice send-off at the SCG. I was out there for that one, had a ball, and it was a fitting farewell.
You would know more about this, but we often look at, what's his stats? What's his specific stats? How much does it translate partnerships in cricket? Like, how much can you affect? For example, Usman Khawaja has an incredible year this year, incredible year. How much does him being a partner with David Warner help him do that? For example, Fisher Harris and Leota, like their partnership, they make each other better. Does that translate to cricket or not as much?
Partnerships are everything in cricket, mate. Just
Yeah,
like, it might look, in a lot of ways, as an individual sport, batter does this, bowler does this, but, David Warner is, statistically, and is one of the most aggressive openers the game's ever seen in Test cricket. I think he was maybe around about 70% strike rate to finish his career, which is right up the pointy end of, along with, I think, Virender Sehwag is possibly the most aggressive opener of all time across X amount of tests. But to be as aggressive as he is, he needs someone like Usman Khawaja, who is more defensive and holds an end up there, because if we're 3 for 10 and Davey Warner's sitting there by himself, he can't be as flamboyant and play as aggressively as he wants to, which is his natural game, because he's got to dig in and hold the innings up. So to have someone, as I said, particularly the last couple of years, like Usman Khawaja, who's been a more stable opening partner for him, it changes everything for a player like David Warner. So to see them two flourish the last 3 or so years since Uzi got recalled back into the side, got put up to the top of the order, it's been a joy.
I saw a stat on Random Stats Guy page. Give it a follow, guys. So good. Like, honestly, I think there's something inherently arousing for blokes and stats. Like, that gets me going. You can watch a rom-com or you can give me stats. I'm nude before you finish the stat. Rom-com, not interested. Random Stats Guy, Marnus, my boy Marnus, he has actually been a partnership in, I think, 3 of the biggest partnerships in cricket or whatever.
Yeah, so it's since his debut, since you combine every batting partnership that's played Test cricket, Marnus is 3 of the top 4. He is in 3 of the top 4. So, for example, the highest is Labuschagne Steve Smith, then the second is Labuschagne Warner, and then 4th is Labuschagne Travis Head.
And so that, when I look, so Marnus has had a bit of a rough go recently, not playing as well as we know he can. But when I saw that, I was like, is that an example of, okay, individually Marnus hasn't been going that great, but that partnership is vital.
And it sort of goes back to a similar point, like you work in tandem. Marnus is a player, like we've got a pretty aggressive lineup at the moment. Travis Head, very aggressive batsman. Obviously Davey Warner, very aggressive batsman. Marnus is a player who he can put his head down and defend for as long as he needs to. Again, these players they'll all work together. If you have 2 blokes who bat like that together and they're too defensively, the pressure builds, it becomes too much, you'll get a loose stroke.
Yeah.
But if you have a player like, Marnus has come in at 3 for us at the moment. There was a massive partnership there with David Warner. Marnus being able to tie an end down a little bit defensively, a bit of a glue of the middle order or top order for us, I suppose. It allows David Warner to play more flamboyantly and play his natural game of cricket.
So the calls for Dave Warner to be dropped, a few weeks ago or whatever, with that all in mind, what we just said, does that make them more outrageous? Like, we're focusing on his individual statistics, but Usman Khawaja has one of the best years, I think, from what I've read in a while. Why wasn't that taken into consideration? Okay, yeah, Warner struggled a little bit, but look at his partnership, his opening, and also we're world champs in everything this year, pretty much. Was that also something that wasn't getting taken into consideration?
Statistically, not necessarily. Statistically speaking, Davey Warner's last sort of 18 months to 2 years haven't been terrific. And what was happening was people were looking at, all right, Warner's going to retire. We had a really soft test summer with the Pakistanis, won the series 3-0. They put up a bit of a fight at times into the West Indies that we should be winning 5-0 pretty comfortably. So like, all right, do we bring in someone like Cameron Bancroft or Matt Renshaw and just get ahead of the game and get these blokes test matches in Australia, or do we give Davey Warner his farewell? Warner's form on Australian soil hasn't been terrible. Like, there was no one sort of sitting there saying that Davey Warner couldn't have come in and got runs this summer against the Pakistanis. He's obviously retired now, won't play the West Indies series. But did we miss a chance to bring someone in? I think Davey Warner deserved that farewell. Partnerships come into it a lot. Yeah,
okay. Because I was reading a lot of comments basically saying he's shitting out. Like, look, he has the runs he's got recently, blah blah. But what I was kind of thinking, just as a guy knows sport to a degree, is I don't think what I love about talking about sport or footy and any kind of sport, and the fact that I've had so much experience in sport since I was 4 years old, is all the intangible stuff as a sportsman that a lot of people don't see.
I was about to say, Kevin, you love your intangibles that people don't see in sport, and an intangible there is that David Warner has got all these mates that he's played with, or a lot of them for around a decade or plenty of years now, who love the bloke and want to send him out on a winning note. And every little thing they do, from their fielding to the bowling, they're going to lift off the back of it. And they did. Like, we won the series pretty comfortably in the end, give or take Boxing Day test. That all has implications. That all impacts it.
And that's what was really interesting about the Warner conversation was really what the argument was the intangibles. It was, do we develop the squad for the future, which is something that's kind of like, it might work, it might not work. Giving them experience might help them, it might not help them, we don't know. Or do we give another intangible, which is team culture, about respecting greats, the send-off he deserves? Does that intangible value of giving him the send-off he deserves and showing the young guys in the squad, this is how you respect your elders, this is how you respect your betters, he's the reason, he's passing down legacy to you, and part of the reason why this baggy green is so important. It was actually the intangibles that were outweighing each other. I don't think it was actually a physical skill set thing that was being argued with the whole should drop this, that, next thing.
I'm with you. I look at it that way as well, and I think he absolutely deserved that farewell. But people out there did say, no, usher in the next era. Get the next player in for the start of the pack. So we've got 2 tests against the West Indies coming up. Whoever they pick will probably be. But don't the
replacements already have experience? Like the guys that they were talking about.
The blokes they're throwing up, Renshaw, Bancroft, Marcus Harris, they've all been in the test setup before. So
it's like, we're not talking about day-born rookies here.
No.
So there you go. Mr. Cricket's giving you the insight. There you go.
He's also the only player in the series to get 100 for Australia. So...
What again? Another thing that surprises me the most is, like, he is literally a GOAT, isn't he?
No, Ricky Ponting said the other day, actually, he said on the Hello Sport podcast that he reckons that there's a debate that Warner is our greatest ever across all formats, multi-format player. Like, there's an argument to say that.
So, like, that's what I couldn't understand. Is like, we're not talking about a guy that's been around for a while. We're talking about one of the greatest batsmen we've had.
He's got the second most, if you combine all 3 formats, he's got the second most runs of all time for Australia, behind Ricky Ponting.
Yeah, slightly, not to disagree with Punter, the smartest cricketing mind on the planet.
Look, it sounds like you're about to.
Obviously not. T20 cricket's been around and been big internationally for 15 years or something now, so it's a pretty small sample size.
Yeah.
David Warner, who's been there for the entirety of it. But yeah, based on how long it's been around for, he is.
Still 15 years.
He probably is. I think Punter's numbers around those 3 formats are phenomenal.
Oh, Punter's got about 9,000 runs.
It's like Punter, and then Warner statistically is second to Punter.
Yeah.
Anything else to say, boys?
Yeah, no, I just thought a lot of the I'm not as into cricket as these guys, obviously, but I thought a lot of the criticism of Dave Warner was I thought it was harsh over the last few weeks. Like, people say, like, one of the big arguments I saw was, he doesn't score runs outside of Australia, shouldn't get this farewell test. Sydney's in Australia, right?
Yeah.
Mistake me if I'm fucking wrong.
Yeah, it's
and a lot of the other things I saw, it's like, he's no Hayden, he's no Langer. It's like, okay, sure. Maybe he's not, but he's still one of the greats.
I know.
You might not be the greatest. Doesn't mean you're shit all of a sudden.
Yeah. Anyway, Warner, I've been watching you so much for the last 15 years, mate. I'll see you at the pub, mate. See you at the pub. We'll have a beer, mate. We'll talk about your career. An Australian legend. Congratulations on an incredible career. Anything else, boys, going on? No.
All good, mate.
That is us done and dusted for the first episode of 2024. As usual, we'll go and fuck ourselves.
Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.